Chapter 2472. Chapter 2472. Chapter 2472 Tribulation Transcendence. The news of the Great Emperor spiritual liquid in the Quasi-Emperor secret realm has been leaked. Lin Lang looked at the sealed cloud-soaring mountain range and his expression turned grave. Before the news was leaked, Ning Yu and Ning Lu had a high chance of obtaining the Great Emperor spiritual liquid. But now, the news had been leaked. The 10 super forces of the 100 Forest Domain would send their peak Immortal King experts. Ning Yu was strong. But no matter how strong he was, he couldn't fight against more than 10 peak Immortal King experts at the same time. Furthermore, they might encounter real quasi-emperors in this trip to the quasi-emperor secret realm. Looks like we'll have to split up. Ning Yu pondered for a while and said, Lin Lang, Ning Lu, and the Dark Emperor will go with me. The rest will go with Yang Yuming. Since the cloud-soaring mountain range was under control, it would be irrational for everyone to move together. Under such circumstances, if they acted separately, the results might be better. Swish. Next, Ning Yu flicked his wrist and threw a token to Yang Yuming. Guo Sheng and the white-robed elder had both given Ning Yu a token in the capital city of the Endless Sky Immortal Kingdom. One had the word dragon engraved on it, and the other had God engraved on it. The token Ning Yu gave Yang Yuming had the word God engraved on it. Let's go. Ning Yu's figure flashed and he flew towards the entrance of the cloud-soaring mountain range. As for Yang Yuming and the others, they stayed where they were and waited for Ning Yu and the others to enter the cloud-soaring mountain range before they set off. Halt! Ning Yu and Lin Lang had just arrived at the entrance when they were stopped by the 2 martial artists guarding the entrance. Early stage Immortal King. The 2 martial artists guarding the entrance were at the early stage of the Immortal King stage. Moreover, they were at the peak of the early stage of the Immortal King stage. They were only a step away from the intermediate stage of the Immortal King stage. How extravagant! Ning Yu muttered to himself. Only super forces could use early stage Immortal Kings to guard the entrance of the cloud-soaring mountain range. Do you have a token? One of the square-faced guards scanned Ning Yu and the others with his perception, then said, those with a token can enter, those without can only leave. Of course I have the token. Ning Yu flipped his wrist and threw the token with the word dragon on it to the square-faced guard. Are you people from the Dragon War Empire? The square-faced guard looked at the token and asked in confusion, not long ago, a team of experts from the Dragon War Empire entered, why didn't you go in with them? We are here to gain experience. We secretly came here to gain experience. Ning Yu lowered his voice and said, I hope the 2 of you will not let the people of Dragon War Empire know. During the conversation, Ning Yu shook his wrist and quietly handed a space ring to the square-faced guard. The square-faced guard originally wanted to scold him, but when he sensed what was inside the space ring, his face immediately became stern. He growled, since you have the token, don't waste time here. Let's hurry up and go in. Thank you. Ning Yu cupped his fists at the square-faced guard, then entered the cloud-soaring mountain range with Lin Lang and the others. Until Ning Yu and the others disappeared, the other round-faced guard asked, who is it? The Dark Immortal King of the Dragon War Empire said that if anyone with the token of the Dragon War Empire passes through here, we must tell him immediately. What do you know? The square-faced guard said coldly, we are guards chosen by the 100 Forest Alliance, we represent the 100 Forest Alliance, the Dark Immortal King wants to find the people who killed their empire, it has nothing to do with us. Alright, let me see what good things those people gave you just now. The round-faced guard said. Actually, it's nothing good, but... The square-faced guard said. Hee, but what? However, before the square-faced guard finished speaking, a few figures rushed over from afar and landed in front of him. Q. Dark Immortal King? Seeing the newcomers, the square-faced guard stuttered. The old man who landed in front of him was none other than the Dark Immortal King. Give it to me. The Dark Immortal King grabbed at the air with his right hand, and in a split second, the square-faced guard's spatial ring flew into his hand. His perception surged into the spatial ring to take a look. Not bad. 10,002 realm stones. The Dark Immortal King casually threw the spatial ring into his robes, then said, Speak, who are those people who just left? Phew. Hearing the Dark Immortal King's question, the square-faced guard could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He had thought that the Dark Immortal King had heard the entire conversation between him and the round-faced guard, but now it seemed that he had only heard the last sentence. With a thought, the square-faced guard took out a token with the word holy on it, and said, "Those people who just left are from the Shungming Empire. One of them is likely to be a prince of the Shungming Empire." A prince of the Shungming Empire? The Dark Immortal King was slightly taken aback. Clearly, he had not expected such a situation. Rubbing his chin with his right hand, the Dark Immortal King pondered for a moment, then said, "You two continue to stand guard here. If you see anyone with the Dragon War Empire token, inform me immediately." Understood. The square-faced and round-faced guards hurriedly replied. "Let's go." The Dark Immortal King did not linger for long. With a wave of his hand, he led the experts behind him away. To the Dark Immortal King, the news that he had received from the square-faced guard was clearly a pleasant surprise. In truth, the 9 super forces of the 100 Forest Weave had already joined forces for this operation in the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm. Everyone's goal was simple. That was to surround and kill the experts of the Shungming Empire. As long as the Shungming Empire suffered too many casualties, they would launch an all-out attack on the Shungming Empire. As for finding the person who had killed the brown-robed elder, it was just a side mission. After all, the forces within the Dragon War Empire were also intertwined. The brown-robed elder and the Dark Immortal King did not belong to the same faction. The reason why he was looking for the expert who had killed the brown-robed elder was just to deal with the situation. If he could find the expert, he would, but if he could not, it did not matter. How unlucky. Seeing the Dark Immortal King leave, the square-faced guard's face was livid. He had painstakingly obtained 10,002 realm stones, but who would have thought that the Dark Immortal King would snatch them away before he could even warm them up? "That's enough." The round-faced guard patted the square-faced guard's shoulder and said, "In another 3 days, we'll be able to leave this godforsaken place and enter the creation secret realm to search for opportunities." "That's true." The square-faced guard's anger dissipated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, within the cloud-soaring mountain range, Ningyu and Lin Lang were advancing at full speed. Although there were 88 mountains in the cloud-soaring mountain range, the true creation secret realm was located in the middle of the 18 mountains. At this time, Ningyu and Lin Lang's destination was the 18 mountains in the middle. However, after advancing at full speed for about 10 minutes, Ningyu and Lin Lang came to a stop. This time, they did not stop because they had encountered danger. Chapter 2473. Chapter 2473. Chapter 2473. Immortal King Leaderboard. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Seeing the tribulation clouds that were about to descend, Ningyu, Lin Lang, and the others immediately flew into the distance. The Immortal King tribulation was extremely dangerous. Ningyu did not want to stay within the range of the tribulation and cause the Dark Emperor's Immortal King tribulation to increase in power. Boom! As soon as Ningyu and the others retreated, a tribulation cloud as thick as a waist descended from the sky. The Dark Emperor did not choose to dodge the first tribulation cloud. Instead, he rose from the ground and used his body to resist it. Bang! The huge tribulation cloud struck the Dark Emperor's body. With the strength of the Dark Emperor's body, it was not difficult for him to resist the first few tribulation clouds. Recently, the Dark Emperor had devoured many martial artists in the Red Demon Sword, and his body had reached the Immortal King realm. With the strength of the Immortal King realm and the powerful energy in his body, the Immortal King tribulation this time was almost in the bag. Whoosh! The Dark Emperor's actions seemed to have angered the tribulation clouds. In an instant, dozens of tribulation clouds appeared and descended from the sky, smashing toward the Dark Emperor's body. Crackle! Several tribulation clouds smashed onto the Dark Emperor's body. Even though the Dark Emperor's body was extremely tough, his skin and flesh were torn open, and blood flowed out. Fortunately, the pain was still within the Dark Emperor's endurance range, and it did not pose any real harm to him. The Dark Emperor's tribulation here might attract the attention of some people. Lin Lang looked at the Dark Emperor who was fighting against the tribulation clouds and said, The cloud-soaring mountain range is extremely dangerous. With our strength, we are not afraid of humans, but we are afraid that demonic beasts will appear. Roar. Lin Lang was indeed a jinx. Before he finished speaking, a deafening roar sounded from afar. Swoosh. Soon after, a huge figure charged towards them at high speed. Oh no, it's the Scarlet Flame Dragon. The loud roar caused Lin Lang's expression to change drastically. From the sound, Lin Lang could tell that it was the extremely difficult Scarlet Flame Dragon. The Scarlet Flame Dragon was a native dragon of the cloud-soaring mountain range. It was extremely powerful. This Scarlet Flame Dragon's cultivation should be around the late-stage Immortal King realm. Lin Lang's expression was solemn as he said in a deep voice, "We can't let it get close to the Dark Emperor. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Scarlet Flame Dragon shouldn't be that stupid, right?" Ningyu frowned slightly in confusion. Being able to cultivate to the late Immortal King stage meant that the Scarlet Flame Dragon's intelligence wasn't low. Generally speaking, this kind of intelligent demonic beast was able to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. The Dark Emperor was currently undergoing the Immortal King tribulation. Unless there was something wrong with the Scarlet Flame Dragon's head, there was no way he would barge in. Although the Crimson Flame Dragon isn't that stupid, this delay dragon has already been controlled. Ninglu's gaze was sharp as he said coldly, "Obviously, someone controlled this Crimson Flame Dragon to test our limits. Let me go kill it." Ninglu didn't hesitate at all. He immediately rose from the ground and turned into an afterimage as he rushed out. After devouring the brown-robed old man from the Dragon War Empire, Ninglu's cultivation had soared to the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm. Ninglu, who was at the intermediate stage of the Immortal King realm, had a comprehensive strength that was terrifying. Even if Ningyu were to fight him, he might not be able to gain the upper hand. A mere late-stage Immortal King Scarlet Flame Dragon couldn't hurt Ninglu. Die. Soon, Ninglu and the Scarlet Flame Dragon were fighting. In order to prevent the aftermath of the battle from affecting the Dark Emperor's tribulation, Ninglu used 100% of his strength in the first move. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched towards the Scarlet Flame Dragon's head with a violent energy wave. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. Ninglu's principle of dealing with enemies was similar to that of Ningyu. Roar. Seeing that the fist that contained terrifying energy was about to hit its body, the Scarlet Flame Dragon raised its head and roared. There seemed to be some unwillingness in its eyes. At the critical moment, Ninglu retracted some of his strength and changed the direction of his fist, hitting the Scarlet Flame Dragon's chest. Even so, the Scarlet Flame Dragon was also sent flying by Ninglu and fell heavily to the ground, causing dust to splash. "Save me." Then, a soft cry for help sounded in Ninglu's ears. "Save you?" Ninglu frowned slightly. He knew that the Scarlet Flame Dragon was being controlled, but he did not expect the Scarlet Flame Dragon's consciousness to be so strong. It could still send out a cry for help while being controlled. "Fine, I'll help you." Ninglu rushed out again. At the tip of his finger, a cold purple light appeared. Swoosh. The cold light flew out rapidly and entered the Scarlet Flame Dragon's body from its back. Fart. As soon as the cold light entered the Scarlet Flame Dragon's body, a large mouthful of blood spurted from the void in the distance. Damn it. The martial artist in the void wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his expression extremely cold. The Dark Immortal King. This martial artist was none other than the Dark Immortal King of the Dragon War Empire. After entering the cloud-soaring mountain range, the Dark Immortal King immediately rushed into the depths. However, after traveling at full speed for more than 10 minutes, the Dark Immortal King stopped. There was no other reason. He discovered that there was a demonic beast undergoing tribulation ahead. Under normal circumstances, he would not care if there was a demonic beast undergoing tribulation. After all, his goal was to go to the quasi-emperor mystic realm and obtain opportunities. However, his keen senses had discovered the crown prince of the Holy Ming Empire. Although Lin Lang had changed his appearance, his unique aura had not changed. Originally, he had wanted to take Lin Lang down at the first instance. This was because with a trump card like Lin Lang, He could save himself a lot of unnecessary trouble when attacking the Holy Ming Empire. However, the Dark Immortal King was not a fool. The Holy Ming Empire was already on the brink of destruction. If Lin Lang appeared at this time, he was afraid that there was an expert protecting him. Therefore, he decided to use the Scarlet Flame Dragon to test the waters and see how strong the martial artist behind Lin Lang was. If he was weak, then he would attack at the first instance and take down Lin Lang, the key figure. However, if he was strong, then he would have to think it over and see if he could call for more experts to help. It was obvious. The Scarlet Flame Dragon had little effect. Not only did it not force out the expert behind Lin Lang, but it could not even defeat the martial artist accompanying Lin Lang. I have to call Long San over to help. The Dark Immortal King was not an indecisive person. He immediately took out a crystal ball from his bosom, whispered a few words into it, and then crushed it. Catcher. The crystal ball shattered, and a piece of information flew into the distance at a terrifying speed. The Dragon War Empire had 3 super experts: Long Da, Long and Long San. The 3 of them could be called experts below the Quasi-Emperor realm. In the 8 southern regions, there was a ranking list below the Quasi-Emperor realm. It contained the strongest experts below the first rank of the Quasi-Emperor realm in the entire 8 southern regions. There were a total of 100 of them. Among them, the Dark Immortal King had condensed a Great Tao, but his body had not reached the Great Tao Quasi-Emperor realm. On the Immortal King ranking list, he was ranked around 90. The brown-robed elder that Ning Yu had killed was ranked even lower than the Dark Immortal King on the Immortal King ranking list. He was only 95th. As for Long San. Chapter 2474. Chapter 2474. Chapter 2474 Calamity. Come out. Just as the Dark Tower Immortal King crushed the crystal ball with his foot, he heard a loud shout behind him. Hearing this shout, the Dark Immortal King's expression changed and he hurriedly retreated. However, the Dark Immortal King was no pushover. He took 2 steps back and stopped in his tracks. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Bam! There was a muffled sound. 2 figures were sent flying dozens of feet away. Interesting. Rubbing his swollen wrist, Ning Lu looked coldly at the Dark Immortal King. Why did you control the Scarlet Flame Dragon to attack us? Haha, I, the Dark Immortal King, can do whatever I want. Why should I report to you? Sensing the aura emanating from Ning Lu, the Dark Immortal King smiled faintly and relaxed. Originally, he had thought that Ning Lu was a peak Immortal King expert like him. But now, he discovered that Ning Lu was only a mid-stage Immortal King. How dare a mere mid-stage Immortal King speak to him in such a manner? Even if he had not gained the upper hand in the previous attack, it was because Ning Lu had used his trump card. In a normal fight, he was confident that he could easily kill Ning Lu. What bullsh *T Dark Immortal King. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Ning Lu was enraged. He had known the Dark Emperor for a long time. The Dark Emperor was trying to stop the Dark Emperor from undergoing his tribulation. Whoosh! Both feet struck the ground. Ning Lu's figure flashed as he charged forward. This time, Ning Lu gathered all the energy in his body into his fist, even using his origin power. Child's play. Although the Dark Immortal King was shocked to see Ning Lu charging at him, he did not show it. He clenched his right fist again and collided with Ning Lu's. Crack. This collision, accompanied by a cracking sound, the Dark Immortal King was finally moved. Although his body was not at the level of a first-stage Quasi-Emperor, it was not far from it. Who would have thought? In the process of clashing with Ning Lu, his fist had actually cracked. Could it be that Ning Lu's fist had reached the level of a Quasi-Emperor? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He took a deep breath. The Dark Tower Immortal King snorted coldly. I have to say, I've underestimated you. But if that's all you've got, let me tell you. Next year, today will be the anniversary of your death. So much nonsense. Clearly, Ning Lu did not want the Dark Tower Immortal King to recover. It wasn't easy for him to cripple the Dark Tower Immortal King's fist. Now was the time for him to follow up on his victory. Naturally, He wouldn't give the Dark Tower Immortal King any time to recover. Voila! This time, the Dark Immortal King did not attack. Instead, he took a few steps back. However, the Dark Tower Immortal King did not make a move. The void beside him suddenly split open and 3 figures appeared. Although these 3 martial artists were not as strong as the Dark Immortal King, they were all at the advanced Immortal King stage. 3 late-stage Immortal King martial artists encircled Ning Lu, who was an intermediate-stage Immortal King. In the eyes of the Dark Immortal King, this would definitely buy him a lot of time. Bang! 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 However, dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. The Dark Tower Immortal King had clearly underestimated Ning Lu's strength. 3 moves. Ning Lu only used 3 moves to defeat the 3 late Immortal King realm martial artists in a domineering manner. I can't believe it. The Dark Tower Immortal King swore on the spot. He could not have imagined it. Ning Lu's strength had reached such a level. One had to know. Even if he attacked, he might not be able to defeat 3 late Immortal King realm martial artists so quickly. Rumble. While Ning Lu was still thinking of dealing with the Dark Emperor, an extremely thick tribulation cloud came crashing down viciously towards the Dark Emperor from afar. You're lucky. Ning Lu glared at the Dark Tower Immortal King, then returned to Ning Yu's side, focusing all his attention on the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor's great Immortal King tribulation had reached a critical juncture. At this point, he could not afford to make any mistakes. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. The Dark Tower Immortal King did not choose to fight Ning Lu head-on. He first healed his broken palm, then fell into deep thought. One-on-one. He did not care about being afraid of Ning Lu. The Dark Tower Immortal King concluded that the reason he did not have the upper hand against Ning Lu was due to his carelessness. After all, he had already cultivated a great Dao, and his strength was ranked around 90th on the Immortal King ranking. In the 8 southern regions, he had never seen a genius martial artist who could make it into the top 100 of the Immortal King ranking when he was only an intermediate Immortal King. Damn it, I've been tricked. The Dark Tower Immortal King clenched his fists, his expression ugly. He had a high status in the Dragon War Empire, but he had been fooled by an intermediate Immortal King Jr. If news of this got out, where would he put his face? When I get my hands on you, I will grind your bones to dust. The Dark Tower Immortal King flew to the side of the 3 late Immortal King realm martial artists, and started treating them. Rumble. As the Dark Tower Immortal King was treating the 3 late Immortal Kings, the last tribulation cloud landed on the Dark Emperor. Bang! The Dark Emperor was sent flying by the tribulation cloud. Catcher! 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 A few towering trees were snapped by the Dark Emperor. Swoosh! The Dark Emperor's great Immortal King tribulation had just ended. The Dark Tower Immortal King stomped his feet on the ground and charged forward at a terrifying speed. Obviously, the Dark Tower Immortal King's goal was not to kill the Dark Emperor, but to snatch the heavenly tribulation fluid in mid-air. The Dark Tower Immortal King saw everything clearly. The heavenly tribulation fluid produced by the Dark Emperor's Immortal King tribulation far exceeded that produced by many geniuses. If he could snatch the lightning tribulation fluid, then the toughness of his body could even go a step further. Humph! Courting death. Ning Yu's eyes were fixed on the Dark Tower Immortal King. Seeing the Dark Tower Immortal King rush out, Ning Yu harumphed coldly, then rose from the ground and slashed down with the red demon sword. Whoosh! All of a sudden, several sword flashes appeared, surrounding the Dark Tower Immortal King from all directions. You overestimate yourself. Looking at the approaching Ning Yu, the Dark Tower Immortal King's expression turned ugly. The world had really changed. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry dared to attack him now. Dark Tower King Fist. Waving both hands, the Dark Tower Immortal King used his unique technique, Dark Tower King Fist. The Dark Tower King Fist was a peak Immortal King level battle technique, only a step away from an Emperor level battle technique. The Dark Tower Immortal King was ranked around 90th on the Immortal King ranking, not only because of his incredible cultivation, but also because of the Dark Tower King Fist. It was no exaggeration. Using the Dark Tower King Fist, he was ranked around 90th on the Immortal King ranking. Not using the Dark Tower King Fist, he would not even be able to enter the top 100 on the Immortal King ranking. This was also why Ning Lu was able to stand up to him. After all, Ning Lu would not be able to stand up to the brown-robed elder if he did not use his ultimate move. Ka. Under the attack of the Dark Tower King Fist. The sword flashes around the Dark Tower Immortal King were all shattered. Today's heavenly tribulation fluid is mine. Chapter 2475. Not a match. Let me help you. Seeing the Dark Immortal King rush towards the tribulation fluid, Lin Lang leapt forward. Me too. Ning Lu was not idle either. He leapt up and stood in front of the Dark Immortal King. Since you want to die, I will grant your wish. The Dark Immortal King's face turned cold as he once again used his trump card, the Dark Immortal Fist. Whoosh. Instantly, an earth-shattering fist aura surged from the Dark Immortal King's fist, crashing towards Ning Yu and Lin Lang. Break. Open. Lin Lang and Ning Lu did not dare to be careless. They hurriedly used their trump cards to defend against the fist aura. The Dark Immortal Fist was a combat technique that was infinitely close to the Emperor level. It was extremely powerful. In a one-on-one fight, neither Lin Lang nor Ning Lu would be able to withstand it. Even if the two of them joined forces, they might not be able to withstand the impact of the fist aura. Ha ha ha. The Dark Immortal King threw his head back and laughed maniacally. You think I'm a sick cat if I don't show my strength? I'll say it now. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. No one will be able to save you, is that so? However, just as the Dark Immortal King finished his words, an indifferent voice sounded in his ears. Who's there? The Dark Immortal King's heart skipped a beat as he turned to look. Oh no. The moment he turned, the Dark Immortal King sensed something amiss. He did not know when Ning Yu had appeared beside him. He was wielding the Red Fiend sword and was slashing viciously at his neck. Ning Yu would not hold back. Strike where it hurts. Show no mercy. That was Ning Yu's motto when it came to dealing with enemies. Especially against a super expert like the Dark Immortal King, Ning Yu would not hold back. Get lost. At that critical moment, the Dark Immortal King whipped out his flying sword and collided with the Red Fiend sword. Crack. The two collided. A crisp sound rang out. The Red Fiend sword was not damaged. On the contrary, the Dark Immortal King's flying sword broke into two. How is this possible? The sudden change caused the Dark Immortal King's face to fill with astonishment. You should know. His flying sword was his intrinsic flying sword, and it had reached the peak of the Immortal King realm. What level was a flying sword that was able to slice apart a peak Celestial King tier magic treasure? Could it be? The blood-red flying sword in Ning Yu's hand was of the Emperor rank? No, it's not at the Emperor rank. The Dark Immortal King shook his head. An Emperor-ranked flying sword would emit an Emperor-ranked aura. Ning Yu's red flying sword didn't emit the aura of an Emperor rank, which meant that it was at the peak of the Celestial King realm at most, and it was still a distance away from the Emperor rank. However, why was his flying sword, which was also at the peak of the Celestial King tier, broken by Ning Yu's flying sword? The more he thought about it, the more the Dark Tower Immortal King felt that things were not that simple. He took a deep breath. The Dark Tower Immortal King said coldly, "Brat, even if I don't use my magic treasure, I can still kill you." Noisy. Ning Yu naturally wouldn't give the Dark Tower Immortal King a chance to recover. After using the Dark Tower Immortal King Fist twice, the energy in the Dark Tower Immortal King's body was almost depleted. The Dark Tower Immortal King Fist was a combat skill that was infinitely close to the Emperor rank. Even if the Dark Tower Immortal King's cultivation level was at the peak of the Immortal King realm, it was impossible for him to use it multiple times in a short period of time. Using it twice was already his limit. And Ning Yu happened to seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once the Dark Tower Immortal King recovered, the consequences would be dire. Swoosh. Ning Yu was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was in front of the Dark Tower Immortal King. Injecting his energy into the Red Fiend sword, Ning Yu slashed out with a reverse grip. In order to kill or severely injure the Dark Tower Immortal King with one strike, Ning Yu's strike had drained all the energy in his body. Oh no. The Dark Tower Immortal King had wanted to use words to agitate Ningyu, so as to buy him some time to recover. However, Ningyu wasn't having it. He attacked with all his might, hoping to kill him. Come and help me. The Dark Tower Immortal King wasn't a hothead. He bellowed, hurriedly calling out to the 3 late-stage Immortal Kings on the other side. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 3 late-stage Immortal Kings immediately flew over, blocking the Dark Tower Immortal King's path. Actually, these 3 late-stage Immortal Kings really didn't want to face Ningyu head-on. After all, the power that Ningyu had displayed was enough to send shivers down their spines. However, they had no other choice. The Dark Tower Immortal King was one of the upper echelons of the Dragon War Empire, while they were only of the middle echelons. Unless they didn't want to stay in the Dragon War Empire anymore, they could only bite the bullet. Fart. 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 Ningyu wasn't going to hold back just because they were late-stage Immortal Kings. He slashed out 3 times. The 3 strikes landed, and the 3 late-stage Immortal Kings were sent flying, landing heavily on the ground. Clearly, Ningyu only used 3 strikes to kill the 3 late-stage Immortal Kings. Let's go. The Dark Tower Immortal King was very self-aware. He took advantage of the gap when Ningyu killed the 3 late Immortal King martial artists and immediately rushed out, flying into the distance. As the saying went, where there's life, there's hope. The Dark Tower Immortal King's plan was simple. He would leave this place first, wait for Long San to arrive, and then kill his way back. When the time came, not only did he want to kill Ningyu, but he also wanted to kill Ninglu, Lin Lang, and the early-stage Immortal King Black Dog. If he didn't kill them, he wouldn't be able to resolve his hatred. Where are you going? However, how could Ningyu let the Dark Tower Immortal King leave? Letting a tiger return to the mountains would only bring about endless trouble. First transformation of the war god. A cold light shot out of Ningyu's eyes, and he completely activated his divine body of war. Ningyu had already cultivated his divine body of war to the first transformation of the war god, and the toughness of his body was comparable to a first-stage quasi-emperor. Whoosh! After activating the first transformation of the war god, Ningyu turned into a shadow and charged out. No energy in his body? Don't worry. Ningyu didn't want to use energy to defeat the Dark Tower Immortal King, he wanted to use his physical strength to defeat the Dark Tower Immortal King. You're courting death. The Dark Tower Immortal King turned around to look at Ningyu approaching him, and his face turned cold. I don't believe that your physical strength is stronger than mine. As he knew what Ningyu was thinking, the Dark Tower Immortal King stopped in his tracks. In fact, the Dark Tower Immortal King advanced instead of retreating, and took the initiative to compete with Ningyu in terms of physical strength. Bang! Ah! The next moment, a crisp sound was accompanied by a cry of agony, like that of a pig being slaughtered. Immediately, Ningyu floated in mid-air, while the Dark Tower Immortal King came into close contact with the ground. Ugh! Fresh blood spurted from his mouth. So strong. The Dark Tower Immortal King wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face filled with terror. He knew that Ningyu was strong, but he didn't expect Ningyu to be this strong. With his early-stage Immortal King cultivation, he had managed to cultivate his physical strength to the level of a first-stage quasi-emperor. Even some of the peerless geniuses of the super factions would find it hard to do so. Could he be from one of the central regions? The Dark Tower Immortal King's face turned ugly. The 8 southern regions was just a poor region of the Immortal Court, and the geniuses there couldn't be called geniuses. However, the large regions in the central region were different. It was rumored that the geniuses of those regions could easily kill peak Immortal King experts when they were still in the early-stage Immortal King realm. Chapter 2476. Chapter 2476. Chapter 2476 Breakthrough. I have to think of something. The Dark Immortal King was not an indecisive person. To him, if surrendering could save his life, he would not hesitate to do so. After all, staying alive was the most important thing. If he lost his life, what was the point of persevering? Whoosh! As the Dark Immortal King was thinking, Ningyu leapt into the air and slammed his body against the Dark Immortal King again. Ningyu did not want to give the Dark Immortal King time to recover. It would be best if he could kill the Dark Immortal King as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary trouble. Hold it. Seeing Ningyu charge towards him, the Dark Immortal King hurriedly said, I choose to surrender. Surrender? Ningyu was slightly taken aback, then he used his perception to probe his surroundings. In Ningyu's opinion, the Dark Immortal King's decision to surrender did not seem to be his true intention. There must be something fishy about this. The Dark Immortal King was a peak Immortal King expert, and had even refined a great Tao. Ningyu did not believe that such a person would choose to surrender without an explosion. However, even though he knew that the Dark Immortal King's surrender contained an explosion, Ningyu still stopped. The Dark Immortal King was a peak Immortal King expert. If he could control him, then this trip to the Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm would save him a lot of trouble. Open your mind. Ningyu held the red demon sword horizontally across the Dark Tower Immortal King's neck. He said coldly, don't try to play any tricks. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that the red demon sword won't pierce through your neck. How would I dare to play any tricks? The Dark Immortal King smiled faintly and completely opened his mind. Whoosh! Ningyu separated a portion of his soul power, which rushed into the Dark Immortal King's body and hid in his heart. Next, as long as Ningyu activated his soul power, the Dark Immortal King's heart would shatter on the spot. With his heart shattered, it would be impossible for the Dark Immortal King to survive. Am I overthinking things? Ningyu did not understand. Without a doubt, the Dark Tower Immortal King was definitely not sincere in wanting to join him. Because the Dark Tower Immortal King was far from being pushed to his limits. I see. With a thought, Ningyu activated the soul power at the heart of the Dark Tower Immortal King and started to probe his heart. Ningyu immediately came to a sudden realization after he probed. So the Dark Immortal King had two hearts. More accurately, there was another heart inside the Dark Immortal King's heart. The heart outside was just a disguise. The Dark Immortal King's true heart was the one inside. So, even if he detonated his soul power, the Dark Tower Immortal King's heart would remain intact and unharmed. Fortunately, I checked. Ningyu secretly rejoiced. If not for his vigilance, he might have been plotted against by the Dark Tower Immortal King. It was all right now. He stealthily moved his soul power, slowly inching towards the Dark Tower Immortal King's true heart. The main spearheads were all aimed at the true heart. It was no exaggeration. If Ningyu detonated his soul power now, the Dark Tower Immortal King's true heart would be greatly affected. But Ningyu was no fool. He wanted to make use of this period of time when the Dark Tower Immortal King was not aware of it to plan his next move. Let's go. Follow me back. Ningyu waved his hand, turned his head and flew towards the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Old ginger is spicier, you are still too young. The Dark Tower Immortal King looked at Ningyu's departing figure, his lips curling into a smile. He had already contacted Long San. Long San would arrive in less than an hour. As for the Dark Tower Immortal King, he could make use of this hour to recuperate. When Long San arrived, he would take Ningyu by surprise. As for the remnant soul power that Ningyu had left in his heart, he already had a plan. After all, he had two hearts. As long as his true heart was not affected, he would not be too affected. Shua. His figure flickered. The Dark Tower Immortal King did not choose to escape, but followed closely behind Ningyu. Not long after, Ningyu and the Dark Tower Immortal King came to the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's side. Ninglu and Lin Lang joined forces, barely withstanding the Dark Tower Immortal King's Dark Tower Immortal King fist. At this moment, the Dark Tower Immortal King fist had dissipated. Lin Lang and Ninglu were recovering. Seeing the Dark Tower Immortal King return, Ninglu stood up, raging. You dare to return? Why wouldn't I dare to return? The Dark Tower Immortal King shrugged, saying mildly, I have already submitted to Ningyu. I will do whatever Ningyu tells me to do. Now, we are on the same side. Kai Kai Kai. Ningyu swept the Dark Tower Immortal King a glance, then placed his right hand on the shoulders of the three late-stage Immortal Kings, and began to devour them. Late-stage Immortal Kings had a lot of energy in their bodies. Ningyu had already been in the early stage Immortal King stage for some time. Just nice, he could use the energy in these 3 late-stage Immortal Kings to try to break through to the intermediate stage Immortal King stage. Drip. Drip. Time passed. In the blink of an eye. Half an hour passed. Who? Ningyu's eyes sprang open as he exhaled a breath of turbid air. In half an hour, Ningyu had completely devoured the energy in the 3 late-stage Immortal Kings, and his cultivation had also advanced to the intermediate stage Immortal King stage. Originally, Ningyu only needed a few minutes to raise his cultivation to the intermediate stage Immortal King stage. The reason why Ningyu needed half an hour was because he had already transferred the soul force from the Dark Tower Immortal King's heart to the Dark Tower Immortal King's real heart. He had to be extremely careful during this process. If the Dark Tower Immortal King discovered it, all his efforts would be in vain. Fortunately, Ninglu and Lin Lang's attention was fully focused on the Dark Tower Immortal King, thus the Dark Tower Immortal King did not dare to act recklessly. Otherwise, Ningyu's actions might really be discovered by the Dark Tower Immortal King. With my current strength, even if I don't use the first transformation of the Divine God of War, I can still fight against the cultivators ranked around 90 on the Immortal King ranking. Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. After advancing to the intermediate stage Immortal King stage, his overall strength had increased by another level. Initially, he could only fight against the cultivators ranked around 100 on the Immortal King ranking, and if he used the first transformation of the Divine God of War, he would have a chance of killing them. But now, without using the first transformation of the Divine God of War, he could fight against and even kill the cultivators ranked around 90 on the Immortal King ranking. With the first transformation of the Divine God of War, he could even easily fight against the cultivators ranked around 80 on the Immortal King ranking. Of course, killing them would be a little difficult. After all, most of the cultivators ranked around 80 on the Immortal King ranking had refined their Tao, and their physical strength was extremely close to that of a first-tier quasi-emperor. Some of them had even reached the strength of an early-tier first-tier quasi-emperor. Congratulations on reaching the intermediate stage of the Immortal King ranking. The Dark Tower Immortal King's eyes darted around as he took a step forward and stood in front of Ningyu. He cupped his fists and said, "When you were in the elementary stage of the Immortal King ranking, you could already fight against a peak Immortal King expert. Now, I'm afraid even a quasi-emperor is no match for you." Ningyu glanced at the Dark Tower Immortal King without saying a word. At this moment, the restriction that the Dark Tower Immortal King had placed on him had completely disappeared. If the Dark Tower Immortal King dared to play any tricks, he could kill the Dark Tower Immortal King and hand him over to Ninglu and the Dark Emperor to devour. Ningyu, why don't you let me devour the Dark Tower Immortal King? Chapter 2477. Condensing the Great Tao. Don't be ridiculous. Ningyu fiercely glared at Ninglu and said, "You guys go to the side first." "All right." Ninglu shrugged and retreated to the side. After ordering Ninglu to retreat, Ningyu turned to look at the Dark Tower Immortal King and said, "You are an expert from the Dragon War Empire and you are very powerful. You should have a token to enter the outer region of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm, right?" "Of course." The Dark Immortal King took out a token from his robes and handed it to Ningyu. "Pa." Ningyu took the token and looked at it for a while. This token was different from the ones he had obtained before. The front of the token was engraved with 4 large golden words, Dragon War Empire. The back of the token was engraved with the word 6. Seeing Ningyu's confusion, the Dark Immortal King explained, 6 represents the Dragon War Empire's ranking in the 100 Forest Weave. They are ranked 6th. 6th? Ningyu asked. "That's right." The Dark Immortal King nodded and continued, "The back of the Shungming Empire's token is engraved with the word 1 because the Shungming Empire is ranked first in the 100 Forest Weave. Is there a difference?" Ningyu asked. "Of course there is a difference. The Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm is divided into the outer region and the core region. The outer region can be entered with a token, but the core region can only be entered after the people in front of you have entered," the Dark Immortal King explained. "Generally speaking, the Shungming Empire is the only power. Their people can enter the core region after 3 hours before the people behind them can enter. An hour after the second-ranked faction enters, the third-ranked faction can enter, and so on. Ningyu finally understood after hearing the Dark Immortal King's explanation. No matter where one went, the strong were respected. The Shungming Empire was powerful, so they could enter the core region of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm 3 hours earlier. There were only so many opportunities in the Secret Realm. If the Shungming Empire snatched them away, no one else could obtain them. The benefits of being a powerful power were on full display in the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm. Let's go. Ningyu did not choose to waste time. After hearing the Dark Tower Immortal King's story, he waved his hand and said, "Let's go to the Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm." Wait. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to leave, the Dark Tower Immortal King started to panic. In just half an hour, the unrivaled powerhouse of Dragon War Empire, Long San, would arrive here. Therefore, he needed to stall for as much time as possible. Even if he couldn't, he had to stall until Long San arrived. Otherwise, he had painstakingly pretended to submit to Ningyu, but wasn't it all for naught? What is it? Ningyu stopped in his tracks and stared into the eyes of the Dark Immortal King. Actually, it's nothing big. I just have something good to give you. Being stared at by Ningyu, the Dark Tower Immortal King could not help but feel flustered. He took out a fruit and handed it to Ningyu. He said, "This fruit is called the Dao fruit. Eating it will give you a chance to condense the Dao." Fruit of Dao. Ningyu's expression changed. He had heard of the fruit of Dao. It was indeed a fruit used to condense the Dao. Generally speaking, one could only condense one Dao from 100 fruit of Dao. But even so, the fruit of Dao was extremely precious. Unless one was from a powerful faction, one would not be able to get their hands on something like this. "Yes, I will give it to you." The Dark Tower Immortal King had a fawning look on his face. "I have already submitted to you. If I have something good, I will naturally give it to you." Although that was what the Dark Tower Immortal King said, that was not the case. At this point, he had already cursed Ningyu 99 times in his heart. His heart was bleeding. That's right. The Dark Tower Immortal King's heart was bleeding. In order to stop Ningyu, he had even taken out a treasure like the fruit of Dao. This fruit of Dao was something he had kept for himself. He wanted to use it to condense a second Dao. "Thank you." Ningyu took the fruit of Dao and tossed it into his mouth to chew. Catcher. The fruit of Dao melted in his mouth and quickly turned into medicinal energy that entered Ningyu's abdomen. As soon as the fruit of Dao entered his abdomen, Ningyu's expression changed. There was no other reason than that he could sense the aura of a Dao within the fruit of Dao. It should be a Dao ranked towards the back of the 3,000 great Daos. Ningyu frowned. The closer one was to the front of the 3,000 great Daos, the more powerful they were. The Immortal Kings at the front of the Immortal King leaderboard had all condensed several great Daos. After condensing one great Dao, one's physical body would reach the level of a quasi-emperor. Then, the great Dao and one's physical body would fuse, and one would undergo a complete metamorphosis to become a quasi-emperor. The Immortal King realm and the quasi-emperor realm were two completely different concepts. Even the weakest quasi-emperor had terrifying control over the great Daos, and could easily kill an Immortal King powerhouse. Only those who had condensed several great Daos when they were in the Immortal King realm, and their physical body had reached the level of a quasi-emperor, could stand against a true quasi-emperor. Forget it, it's better than nothing. Ningyu did not think too much. He activated his technique and began to devour the great Daos. Kai kai kai. While Ningyu was devouring the great Daos, the Dark Immortal King beside him was filled with anger. "Please don't have a great Dao." The Dark Immortal King cursed in his heart. He cursed the great Dao fruit for not having a great Dao. Otherwise, he would probably be so devastated that his intestines would turn green. Little did he know, Ningyu was currently refining the great Dao, making it a part of his body. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. In this half an hour, Ningyu had completely turned the great Dao in the great Dao fruit into his own great Dao. Furthermore, Ningyu could use this great Dao to fight against his enemies, Peak immortal kings like the brown-robed old man and the dark immortal king might have condensed great Taos, but given their affinity with the great Tao, they could only slowly nurture it, and could not use it against their enemies. Ningyu was different. Not only had he condensed a great Tao, but he could also use it against his enemies. Even if I encounter an expert in the top 70 of the Immortal King leaderboard, I can still deal with him easily. Ningyu was very satisfied. Previously, with the first transformation of the Divine God of Battle, he could fight against cultivators ranked around 80 on the Immortal King leaderboard. However, if he encountered a cultivator ranked around 80 on the Immortal King leaderboard, not only would he be able to fight him, he could even kill him with ease. Even if he encountered a cultivator ranked around 70 on the Immortal King leaderboard, he could still kill him with the first transformation of the Divine God of Battle. Ningyu glanced at the Dark Immortal King and said with a grin, "Dark Immortal King, thank you for your Tao fruit. I've refined a great Tao." "What?" The Dark Immortal King was startled. He blurted out, "You've really refined a great Tao?" The Dark Immortal King felt like dying. 100-to-1 ratio had landed on Ningyu. He had devoured a few Tao fruits in the past, but without exception, none of them contained a great Tao. Ningyu, on the other hand, he had refined a great Tao just by devouring one of the Tao fruits he had taken out. "Don't worry, you're in for a treat when Long San is here." The Dark Immortal King mumbled to himself. "By the way, I'm a little curious, if I kill you, will I be able to rob you of your great Tao?" Chapter 2478. Interesting. Ningyu's words made the Dark Immortal King's heart skip a beat. After condensing his great Tao, Ningyu wouldn't want to seize his great Tao, right? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. After all, Ningyu had not searched him after taking control of him. According to the iron law that there must be a demon behind everything abnormal, it showed that Ningyu's real idea was that his gay friend might be taking away his Tao. At this thought, the Dark Immortal King hurriedly said, "Ningyu, even if you kill me, you won't be able to steal my great Tao. Because the great Tao needs to be condensed by oneself. The great Tao of others can only be used to observe and not become one's own. If that's the case, I can observe your great Tao." Ningyu rubbed his chin with one hand as he pondered. In fact, Ningyu was beginning to doubt whether the brown-robed elder from the Dragon War Empire that he and Ninglu had killed had condensed a great Tao. Shaking his head, Ningyu put these thoughts to the back of his mind for the time being. To him, the most important thing now was not to discuss these things, but to hurry to the depths of the Quasi-Emperor secret realm and find a way to obtain the Great Emperor spiritual liquid. "I can, but I have only recently condensed a great Tao and I can't use it against my enemies yet. I don't think it will be of any use to you," the Dark Immortal King said awkwardly as he scratched his head. "Just kidding, why would I want to observe your great Tao?" Ningyu suddenly stared at the Dark Tower Immortal King, then said, "Let's go. Follow me to the Quasi-Emperor secret realm. Given your status in the Dragon War Empire, I'm sure you can bring us to the depths of the Quasi-Emperor secret realm." Whoosh. However, just as Ningyu finished speaking, something strange happened. Not far from them, the void suddenly split open, and a tall martial artist suddenly rushed out of the void. Whoosh. After this tall martial artist left the void, he did not go far, but flew straight towards Ningyu and the others. Long San. The Dark Immortal King was overjoyed to see the newcomer. That's right. This tall martial artist was none other than the peerless powerhouse of the Dragon War Empire, Long San, whom he had sought help from before. Long San's cultivation was at the peak of the Immortal King realm. However, Long San was ranked around 70th on the Celestial King ranking board. He was extremely powerful. Even if there were 2 of him, or even 3 of him, he still wouldn't be Long San's match. "You know him?" Ningyu stared at the tall martial artist who was rushing towards them. He looked at the Dark Tower Immortal King and asked suspiciously, "Could he be the helper you invited?" "Ha ha ha." The Dark Immortal King threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Now that things had come to this, the Dark Tower Immortal King no longer had to pretend. In any case, Long San had come. With his and Long San's strength, joining hands to deal with Ningyu and Lin Lang's group, wouldn't it be an easy matter? After laughing maniacally, the Dark Immortal King said viciously, "Do you really think you can control me? To tell you the truth, I've tolerated you for a very long time. You stole my great Tao fruit. Today, I'm going to cut you into 8 pieces. You. Ning Yu pretended to reveal a terrified expression and said, "You actually dare to resist me? Aren't you afraid that I'll trigger the soul power in your heart and blow it up? The ignorant are fearless." The Dark Immortal King's expression turned frosty as he said coldly, "I have 2 hearts. Even if you detonate your soul power and blow up one of my hearts, I'll still be unharmed." Swoosh. At this moment, Long San landed in front of the Dark Immortal King. He first swept a glance at Ning Yu and Lin Lang before grumbling, "Dark Tower Immortal King, could it be that you called me all the way here just to deal with a few nobodies like these?" Long San was speechless. He could naturally tell that Ning Yu and Ning Lu were mid-stage celestial kings, while Lin Lang and the Black Dog were only at the peak of early-stage celestial kings. Against these people, he only needed to use 10% of his strength to kill them easily. Could it be there were others hiding in the void? With a thought, Long San unleashed his senses and began to probe the void. "What are you doing?" The Dark Immortal King interrupted Long San's probing and said in a low voice, "Don't underestimate them. Even I suffered a great loss when they joined forces." "Oh my." Long San retracted his senses and said, "Even you, the Dark Immortal King, suffered a loss. This means that they're quite capable. Speak, I'll deal with them for you. Give me a few Tao fruits." The Dark Immortal King rolled his eyes. A few Tao fruits. He only had 1 Tao fruit on him, and to buy time, he had given it to Ning Yu. At this moment, he did not even have a single Tao fruit. However, Long San was an unparalleled expert of the Dragon War Empire after all. It would be inexcusable to call him over without giving him some benefits. With a flick of his wrist, the Dark Immortal King took out a jade bottle and said, "There are 50 drops of Quasi-Emperor blood essence in here. As long as you help me kill them, these Quasi-Emperor blood essence are yours." Long San glanced at the jade bottle in the Dark Immortal King's hand and said, "It's just a rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. It's not worth much. I'd rather give you a Tao fruit." The blood essence of a Quasi-Emperor was categorized into rank 1, rank 2, and even rank 9 Quasi-Emperor. The effects of rank 1 and rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence were not very strong. At the very least, to a cultivator like Long San, the effects were negligible. "Your appetite is pretty big." The Dark Immortal King took out another jade bottle and shook it. 10 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. That's more like it. Long San nodded in satisfaction. 10 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence was already a considerable amount of wealth. To deal with 3 mid-stage Immortal King martial artists, he could obtain 50 drops of rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence and 10 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. No matter how he looked at it, this was more profitable than a business deal. "Wait here, I'll be right back." Long San pushed off the ground and charged forward. Dragon conquers the world. Even a lion would use its full strength against a rabbit. Although Long San looked down on Ning Yu and Lin Lang on the surface, that was not the case in reality. Someone who could defeat a wily old fox like the Dark Immortal King definitely had some trump cards. Therefore, Long San's first move was his killer move, an Emperor-ranked battle technique, Dragon Conquers the World. Rumble. In an instant, an earth-shattering fist radiance surged toward Ning Yu and Lin Lang. Block. Seeing the incoming fist radiance, Ning Yu bent his legs slightly and stretched out his right hand. Whoosh. An endless stream of energy surged out from Ning Yu's palm and formed an energy barrier above his head. On the other side, Lin Lang, Ning Lu, and even the Dark Emperor poured the energy in their bodies into the energy barrier. Crack, crack, crack. The fist radiance bombarded the energy barrier, causing it to emit cracking sounds. Evidently, at this rate, it would not be long before the energy barrier was destroyed. Interesting. However, after one move, Long San instantly stopped and didn't continue to attack. "Why did you stop?" The Dark Immortal King was extremely dissatisfied with Long San's actions. Chapter 2479. Betrayal. Nothing. I just find them interesting and want to take them in as slaves. Long San waved it off, indicating that the Dark Tower Immortal King need not panic. To be able to block his Emperor-ranked battle skill with his intermediate Immortal King cultivation level, it was enough to show that Ningyu and the rest were no pushovers. It would be a pity to kill such a martial artist. He might as well take them in as slaves and groom them slowly. Who knows, they might even become powerful helpers. You had better not fail miserably. The Dark Tower Immortal King snorted coldly as he took a few steps back. For some reason, the Dark Tower Immortal King felt that things were not that simple. Logically speaking, if he called Long San over, Ningyu would definitely be furious at him and berate him for not keeping his word. He might even use his soul power to threaten him. At the very least, he would use his soul power. But Ningyu did not do any of these things. He was not angry, nor did he use his soul power. This confused him. Usually, there was only one possibility for something like this to happen. Ningyu was fearless and confident. Long San did not care what the Dark Tower Immortal King was thinking. He raised an eyebrow as he looked at Ningyu with interest. Your strength is not bad. Open your mind and let me control you. I can spare your lives. What are you talking about? The corner of Ningyu's lips curled into an arc as he said, You may be powerful, but you're too arrogant if you think you can defeat us with just that. As he spoke, Ningyu's face turned cold as he looked at the Dark Tower Immortal King. Dark Tower Immortal King, why are you so far away? Lin Lang and I will hold Long San back. What are you waiting for? Not good. Bad news. Both the Dark Tower Immortal King and Long San were shocked when they heard Ningyu's words. The Dark Tower Immortal King was afraid that Long San would be bewitched by Ningyu, while Long San was afraid that the Dark Tower Immortal King would ally with Ningyu to plot against him. Whoosh! In an instant, Long San and Ningyu pulled apart some distance, floating in the air. Shifting his gaze towards the Dark Tower Immortal King, Long San said coldly, Don't you think you owe me an explanation? Explain? What explanation do I have to give you? The Dark Immortal King was equally sullen. No matter how much he had calculated, he hadn't expected Long San to love him. Originally, he had thought that Long San would be able to easily kill Ningyu and Lin Lang. Who would have thought? Not only did Long San not kill them, but he also suspected him. How aggrieved, extremely aggrieved. Don't play dumb here. Long San said fiercely, I've suspected it for a long time. With your super strong strength at the peak of the Celestial King stage, how could you not kill 3 martial artists at the intermediate stage of the Celestial King stage? It turns out that you wanted to conspire with them to kill me. Don't slander me. The Dark Immortal King's lungs were about to explode. When had he ever schemed against Long San? If he really wanted to scheme, he wouldn't have gone to Ningyu and Lin Lang. I'm slandering you. Fine then, you go and make a move, kill them. Long San pointed at Ningyu and Lin Lang and said. The Dark Immortal King couldn't say it out loud. He had paid a huge price to invite Long San to help, but in the end, he still had to act. One had to know. There was still Ningyu's soul power at his heart. Although Ningyu's soul power would only destroy his second heart, the loss of one heart would still affect him greatly. You win. The Dark Immortal King glared at Long San. I'll kill Ningyu. You go and kill Lin Lang and Ninglu, as well as that black dog. I don't need you to teach me that, Long San said mildly. Swoosh. With that, Long San's figure flashed as he rushed towards Lin Lang and Ninglu. Swoosh. As for the Dark Immortal King, he rushed towards Ningyu. Dark Immortal King, how dare you? With a thought, Ningyu activated a portion of the Dark Immortal King's soul power at his heart. Fart. Just as Ningyu detonated his soul power, the Dark Immortal King spat out a mouthful of blood, his aura weakening. Helpless. The Dark Immortal King could only stop where he was. You. He extended his right hand and pointed at Ningyu, his face full of terror. He had never imagined that Ningyu would know that he had 2 hearts, and had even secretly transferred his soul power to his other heart. Now, as long as Ningyu activated his soul power, he would die for sure. If you know what's good for you, you'd better join forces with me against Long San. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen. Ningyu said mildly. Fine. The Dark Immortal King's heart bled. No matter how much he schemed, he had still fallen for Ningyu's ploy. Long San, if you know what's good for you, you'd better surrender now, lest I kill you. The Dark Immortal King took a deep breath and said to Long San, on account of how hard it has been for you to cultivate, as long as you surrender, I can spare your life. As expected. Long San stopped where he was, his eyes darkening. It seemed like Ningyu was right. The Dark Immortal King had called him here to kill him. Taking a deep breath, Long San said, You pieces of trash want to kill me? You're overestimating yourselves. Rumble. The next instant. A terrifying aura emanated from Long San's body. As the aura appeared, a golden pillar as thick as a person's waist appeared above Long San's head. Great Tao. Long San had cultivated his great Tao, and now he was using it against his enemy. Dark Immortal King, this day next year will be your death anniversary. As he spoke, Long San manipulated the great Tao above his head to attack the Dark Immortal King. Damn it. Seeing Long San's great Tao coming for him, the Dark Immortal King cursed under his breath. The Dark Immortal King knew very well. Ningyu would not help him. Ningyu's real intention was to let him and Long San both suffer, and then reap the rewards. He knew this, but there was nothing he could do. If he did not fight Long San, Ningyu would definitely trigger the soul power in his heart, killing him on the spot. If he fought Long San, he might have a chance. He was helpless. He could only try his best to fight Long San, and think of a way to defeat him. However, how could Long San be defeated so easily? On the Immortal King ranking, Long San was ranked around 70, while the Dark Immortal King was ranked around 90. No matter how you looked at it, the Dark Immortal King could not defeat Long San. Bang! And that was indeed the case. Long San used only 5 minutes to defeat the Dark Immortal King. The Dark Immortal King fell heavily to the ground, face down. Fart, fart, fart. Spitting out mouthfuls of fresh blood, the Dark Immortal King's aura fell to rock bottom. Do it. The moment the Dark Immortal King was defeated, Ningyu bellowed and rushed forward. Although Long San was strong, he had just battled the Dark Immortal King, and he was not left with much energy. As the saying went, strike while you're down. Ningyu did not expect the Dark Immortal King to defeat Long San. Chapter 2480. Chapter 2480. Chapter 248 Pyrrhic Victory. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 figures attacked Long San from 3 different directions. Ningyu, Ninglu, Linlang. All 3 of them had unleashed their trump cards. Ningyu activated the first transformation of the war god and poured all the energy in his body into the red demon sword, slashing at Long San. A golden branch appeared above Ninglu's head and ruthlessly lashed at Long San. As for Linlang, halfway through his charge, he suddenly stopped. Linlang stopped, not because he feared Long San, but because he took out a golden talisman and threw it into the air. Explode! Along with a low shout. The golden talisman exploded with a loud bang. Linlang's cultivation was only at the peak of the early stage of the Immortal King realm. There was a huge gap between him and Ningyu and Ninglu. He was very self-aware. Even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to injure Long San. Therefore, he took out a talisman that he had hidden for a long time. After leaving the Holy Ming Empire, he brought a total of hundreds of thousands of talismans with him. Amongst them, there were only 3 of the most powerful ones. Immortal Vanquishing Talisman, the so-called Immortal Slaying Talisman, as the name suggested, could even easily kill immortals. Of course, this was a little exaggerated. However, if the Immortal Vanquishing Talisman that Linlang had taken out was activated with full force, even the experts ranked around 90 on the Celestial King ranking might not be able to withstand it. Although Long San was ranked around 70th on the Immortal King ranking, he was currently being held back by Ningyu and Ninglu. He could only use 1/5 of his strength to deal with the Immortal Vanquishing Talisman. Under such circumstances, the Immortal Vanquishing Talisman would naturally be of great use. All of you will die today. Long San was so angry that his nose was crooked. Before he came, he had never expected the Dark Tower Immortal King to betray him. Otherwise, Why would he be so flustered? But even so, Long San didn't think he would lose. After all, he was a peerless expert ranked around 70th on the Immortal King ranking. He had already condensed a great Tao, and the strength of his body had also reached the level of an early-stage first-level quasi-emperor. Next, he only needed to fuse the great Tao with his body to advance to the true quasi-emperor realm. Taking a deep breath, Long San did his best to calm himself down. Long San knew this better than anyone. The current situation was very disadvantageous to him. He needed to be highly focused and couldn't relax in the slightest. Otherwise, only death awaits him. Noisy. Ningyu could not care less about what Long San was thinking. He controlled the red demon sword and slashed out in the air. Then, he dashed forward, using his physical body to clash with Long San. In terms of pure physical strength, Ningyu feared no one. Kill. Ninglu let out a low shout, and the golden branch suddenly grew larger, ruthlessly whipping towards Long San's neck. Rumble. Very quickly, Ningyu, Lin Lang, and Ninglu's attacks reached Long San. Dragon conquers the world. At the critical moment, Long San used his Emperor tier battle skill again. Dragon conquers the world. Compared to the Dark Tower Immortal King, Long San was much stronger. Even if he used the half-step Emperor-ranked battle technique, the Obelisk King's Fist, he could only use it twice. Long San was different. The toughness of Long San's body and the strength of the great Tao he had condensed allowed him to continuously use Emperor tier battle skills. Rumble. In an instant, the earth-shattering fist radiance collided with the attacks of Ningyu and the others. Poochie. After one move, Lin Lang spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He landed heavily on the ground, basically losing the ability to fight. On the other hand, although Ningyu and Ninglu were also severely injured, they could still continue to fight. As for Long San, he had used Dragon Conquers the World for the second time, and his internal organs had already suffered considerable damage. Dragon conquers the world. Long San did not choose to stop. He raised his head and roared. All the muscles in his body burst forth, and he used Dragon Conquers the World for the third time. Crack crack crack. Because Long San had overused his Emperor tier battle skill, the bones in his body made cracking sounds. Generally speaking, Emperor tier battle skills could only be used by a true quasi-emperor. For someone like Long San to forcefully use an Emperor tier battle skill, it was extremely damaging to his body. Fortunately, Long San had a special physique, and had the body of a true dragon. Otherwise, he would have died on the spot when he used Dragon Conquers the World for the third time. So he's not human. Ningyu's eyes narrowed slightly. He had originally thought that Long San was a human martial artist, but now it seemed that his judgment was wrong. Long San had the body of a true dragon, and in a sense, he was already considered a sub-dragon. After devouring your blood, my god of war body should be able to improve further, Ningyu thought to himself. Ningyu was very clear. If he wanted to cultivate the god of war body to the second transformation, he had to devour the blood essence of the top physiques in the myriad heavens and worlds. Of course, there were no absolutes. The blood essence of the top physiques in the myriad heavens and worlds might not be as useful as the blood essence of a quasi-emperor. And Long San's blood essence was infinitely close to that of a quasi-emperor. If he devoured his blood, Ningyu's god of war body might improve further, and there was a chance that he could advance to the second transformation of the god of war. True dragon body. Long San raised his head and roared. His body suddenly changed into the shape of a giant dragon. Originally, Long San's physical strength was that of an early-level quasi-emperor. Now that he had transformed into a giant dragon, his physical strength was that of a mid-level quasi-emperor. I'd like to see if your body is harder or mine. Long San's eyes turned cold, and he charged at Ningyu at a terrifying speed. Kai Kai. Due to his incredible speed, the friction between Long San's huge body and the air produced a hissing sound. You think I'm afraid of you? Ningyu was naturally not afraid of Long San. Not to mention that Long San's physical strength was that of a mid-level quasi-emperor. Even if it was a late-level quasi-emperor, Ningyu would not be afraid. There was no other reason. His physical strength was that of a peak first-level quasi-emperor. Ning-yu executed the first transformation of the god of war to the extreme, and he collided with Long-san's body. Crack! The two collided. Ning-yu and Long-san were sent flying at the same time. Both of them landed heavily on the ground, creating a huge crater. Who won? The Dark Immortal King stared unblinkingly at the crater created by Ning-yu and Long-san, feeling extremely nervous. To the Dark Immortal King, he hoped that both Ning-yu and Long-san would be heavily injured, and both would die in battle. That way, he could escape, and he could even think of a way to kill Ning-lu and Lin-lang, and reap the rewards. After all, the injuries he had sustained during his battle with Long-san had mostly healed. As long as Ning-yu died in battle, he would have a way to expel the soul power that Ning-yu had left in his heart out of the main city, and thus regain his freedom. Cough cough. However, the sound of a dry cough shattered the Dark Immortal King's beautiful dream. It was obvious that the dry cough had come from Ning-yu. Ning-yu crawled out of the crater with great difficulty, and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. As expected of the true dragon body, it is indeed very powerful. At this time, Ning-yu still felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, he had executed the first transformation of the god of war to the extreme. Chapter 2481. Chapter 2481. Chapter 241. Good stuff. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Ning-yu had just climbed out of the pit when Long-san's head popped out from afar, his face filled with unwillingness. Long-san hadn't expected that his fight with Ning-yu this time would end in defeat. One had to know. His cultivation was at the peak of the Immortal King realm, and he had condensed a great Tao. His body was at the early stage of the First Order Quasi-Emperor realm. But under such circumstances, he still lost to Ning-yu, and he was utterly defeated. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. We will meet again. Long-san glared at Ning-yu, then leaped up and executed a secret technique, wanting to escape. However, how could Ning-yu let Long-san escape? He had gone through a lot to defeat Long-san. If he let Long-san go like this, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Let me. Without waiting for Ning-yu to make a move, Lin-lang and Ning-lu immediately leaped up. Both of them had the same thought as Ning-yu. The cooked duck must not be let go. Bang! Bang! Ning-lu and Lin-lang didn't hold back. They directly used 100% of their strength. Each of them punched Long-san's chest. Long-san had already suffered heavy injuries in the fight with Ning-yu. Now that he was hit in the chest by Ning-lu and Lin-lang, his aura instantly dropped to the freezing point, and he fell from the void, landing heavily on the ground. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Several of Long-san's ribs broke on the spot. What do you want? I am from the Dragon War Empire. If you kill me, the Dragon War Empire will not spare you. Long-san knew that he could not escape, so he said fiercely, my strength can only be ranked last in the Dragon War Empire. To tell you the truth, the Dragon War Empire even has a quasi-emperor. If you kill me, you will definitely be hunted down by the quasi-emperors of the Dragon War Empire. Noisy. Ning-yu could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Long-san. He took a step forward, and a soul force emerged from his body. You have two choices. First, release your mind and let me control it. Second, die. As the word die resounded, Ning-yu's aura suddenly erupted, crazily suppressing Long-san. Ning-yu's meaning was clear. As long as Long-san made the wrong choice, he would immediately kill him. Ari, Long-san, a good death is better than a bad life. At this moment, the Dark Tower Immortal King flew over and sighed softly. He advised, even I have submitted to Ning-yu, what's wrong with you submitting to him? Pa. Long-san spat out a mouthful of saliva and said, who do you think you are? If it weren't for you, would I have ended up like this? Moreover, you and I are worlds apart. You can only rank last on the Celestial King leaderboard, while I'm ranked around 70th. A wise man submits to circumstances. The Dark Tower Immortal King's face was dark and gloomy. He said coldly, I've said it all. If you surrender, you live. If you don't, you die. Me. Long-san snorted coldly. He looked at Ning-yu and said, I can surrender, but before that, I have a small request. Speak. Ningyu said. I want a higher position than the Dark Tower Immortal King. In other words, I can be your slave, but the Dark Tower Immortal King must be my slave, or subordinate. Long San said coldly. Sure. Hearing Long San's words, the Dark Tower Immortal King was shocked. He had already thoroughly offended Long San. If Ningyu agreed to Long San's request, wouldn't he be tortured by Long San? No problem, I agree to your request. Ningyu nodded and said, but let me say this first. If the two of you dare to cause trouble for me, I will not hesitate to kill you. Of course. Long San's face lit up with joy. He then completely relaxed. Whoosh. Ningyu controlled a strand of soul power and sent it into Long San's body, where his heart was. Long San was different from the Dark Tower Immortal King. The Dark Tower Immortal King had two hearts. Long San, on the other hand, was very normal. He only had one heart, and Ningyu easily controlled him. It's over. Ningyu's control of Long San caused the Dark Tower Immortal King to grimace. He had wanted to plead with Ningyu for Ningyu to let him control Long San. But now, Long San was one step ahead, and now had control over him. This made the Dark Tower Immortal King want to cry. Hand over all the Dao fruits and Quasi-Emperor Essence blood on you. Ningyu did not care about the grudge between Long San and the Dark Tower Immortal King. He threw out an interspatial ring and said, I do not wish for you to play any tricks. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. We wouldn't dare. Long San and the Dark Tower Immortal King hurriedly replied. Then, they took out all their Dao fruits, Quasi-Emperor blood essence, and even some formed and unformed pills, and stored them in the interspatial ring. After storing them, Long San flicked his wrist and threw the interspatial ring to Ningyu. Pa. Catching the interspatial ring firmly, Ningyu extended his perception into the interspatial ring to inspect it. 2 Dao fruits, 100 drops of rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence, and 30 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. Ningyu was quite satisfied. 3 Dao fruits could condense a Dao, but of course, most of them could not. After all, a 1 in 100 chance was not something that could be encountered every time. As for the 100 drops of rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence, Ningyu did not keep them. Instead, he threw them to the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence could strengthen one's body. Ningyu's body had long reached the level of a peak rank 1 Quasi-Emperor. Unless he cultivated the War God body to the second transformation, his body could only slowly improve. It was not worth it to use 100 drops of Quasi-Emperor blood essence to improve his body a little bit. Ninglu and Lin Lang were different. Even if Ninglu's main body was the sapling of the world tree, his body had not reached the level of a Quasi-Emperor. Even Ninglu had not reached it, not to mention Lin Lang. 3 Dao fruits, Ningyu wanted to keep them for himself, but on second thought, he threw them to Ninglu and Lin Lang. Catcher, catcher, catcher. Catching the Dao fruits. Ninglu, Lin Lang, and the Dark Emperor immediately threw them into their mouths and started devouring. Drip, drip. In the blink of an eye, half an hour passed. Regrettably, whether it was Ninglu, Lin Lang, or the Dark Emperor, of the 3 of them, none succeeded. 3 Dao fruits, not a single Dao appeared. However, although they did not condense a Dao, Ninglu's cultivation had reached the peak of the intermediate Immortal King realm. Lin Lang and the Dark Emperor had also reached the peak of the early Immortal King realm. They were only half a step away from the intermediate Immortal King realm. While they were devouring the Dao fruits, Ningyu devoured 10 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. The effects of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence were many times better than rank 1 Quasi-Emperor blood essence. 10 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence allowed Ningyu's cultivation to soar from the intermediate Immortal King realm to the peak of the intermediate Immortal King realm. Let's go all out. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu swallowed the remaining 20 drops of rank 2 Quasi-Emperor blood essence in one go. His technique circulated rapidly. Ningyu controlled the energy in the Quasi-Emperor blood essence and circulated it in his body. This was a good opportunity to break through. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no more. Chapter 2482. Chapter 2482, Chapter 242 Sparring 20 drops of second-tier quasi-emperor blood essence. Any other cultivator would not have dared to directly devour them. After all, their bodies were far weaker than Ningyu's and their speed of refining the quasi-emperor blood essence was not as fast as Ningyu's. Kai. Under Ningyu's all-out refinement, the 20 drops of quasi-emperor blood essence only took half an hour to completely transform into energy that accumulated in Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Break. Another 10 minutes passed. Ningyu bellowed. Rumble. An extremely terrifying aura emanated from Ningyu's body and shot into the sky. This is late-stage Immortal King. Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from Ningyu's body, the Dark Immortal King and Long San exchanged a glance and could see the bitterness in each other's eyes. When Ningyu was a mid-stage Immortal King, he could easily fight them without being at a disadvantage. Now that he was a late-stage Immortal King, he could easily defeat them if he fought them again. At this thought, the Dark Immortal King and Long San suddenly felt that their battle was somewhat dull. In any case, they were already under Ningyu's control. What was the point of continuing to fight? Whoosh. Ningyu did not care what the Dark Immortal King and Long San thought. He slowly exhaled a turbid breath, a slightly excited expression on his face. Late-stage Immortal King. He had finally reached the late-stage Immortal King. Ningyu's expression was somewhat solemn. Previously, his overall strength could match Long San, who was ranked 70th on the Immortal King ranking. But now, even if he faced a cultivator ranked 50th on the Immortal King ranking, he could easily match or even kill him. Gathering his thoughts, Ningyu said in a clear voice, "Let's go to the outer region of the Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm." Whoosh. Ningyu commanded. The Dark Immortal King and Long San naturally did not dare to hesitate. The two of them leaped into the air and opened a path. The outer region of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm was located within the 18 mountains in the center of the cloud-soaring mountain range. In other words, the 18 mountains in the center of the soaring cloud mountain range could be considered the outer regions of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm. In order to enter the inner region, he would have to fight his way through the mountain ranges one by one until he reached the depths of the final mountain range. Only then would he be able to break through the formation and enter the core region. The core region of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm was very different from the outer region. Perhaps, there were some Dao fruits in the outer regions, and he might even be able to find the blood essence of a Quasi-Emperor. However, in the core area, there were many Dao fruits and Quasi-Emperor blood essences. In fact, there might even be Emperor blood essences. With Long San and the Dark Tower Immortal King leading the way, Ningyu and the others did not encounter any trouble along the way. It only took them a few hours to cross the 70 mountain ranges in front of the soaring cloud mountain range and arrive in front of the 18 mountain ranges in the central region. At this moment, many experts had already gathered in front of the first mountain range. When everyone saw Long San and Dark Tower Immortal King appear, they only shot a glance at them before retracting their gazes and staring fixedly at the energy barrier in front of the first mountain range. Because Long San and Dark Tower Immortal King were experts from the Dragon War Empire, and the people from the Dragon War Empire had already arrived in this region and occupied an empty space. When they saw Long San and Dark Tower Immortal King appear, a black-robed elder from the Dragon War Empire asked, "Why are you so late?" "We were delayed on the way here," Long San replied indifferently. As Long San spoke, he explained to Ningyu, "His name is Old Freak Tang, and he has a strange and eccentric personality. He is the strongest expert that the Dragon War Empire had sent this time, and he is ranked 50th on the Immortal King ranking list." 50th. Ningyu's expression did not change. With his current strength, he would not be afraid even if he faced Old Freak Tang head-on. Ningyu shifted his gaze and began to look around. There were a total of 10 camps outside the energy barrier. Without a doubt, these 10 camps were occupied by the 7 super empires and 3 super sects of the 100 Forest Weave. What's wrong? Suddenly, Ningyu sensed Lin Lang's cold and sinister expression and asked curiously. On the way here, Ningyu had deliberately helped Lin Lang conceal his unique aura. Otherwise, he would most likely be discovered here. After all, Even the Dark Tower Immortal King could discover his identity. There were so many more powerful martial artists here, and they would definitely be able to discover that Lin Lang was unusual. Helping Lin Lang conceal his aura was the wisest choice. I'm fine. Lin Lang took a deep breath and said, "Are you all right?" Ning Yu followed Lin Lang's gaze. Not far ahead was the camp of the Holy Ming Empire. The only thing that puzzled Ning Yu was that there were only 3 people from the Holy Ming Empire who had come. And these 3 people did not have very high cultivation. The strongest one was only a late-stage Immortal King, and had not even reached the peak of the Immortal King realm. One had to know. Many of the experts from the 10 major forces who had gone to the Quasi-Emperor secret realm were terrifying existences in the top 100 of the Immortal King ranking list. What was the difference between the Holy Ming Empire sending these people over and sending them to their deaths? Very well, it seems like you've grown up. Long San, don't think that you can talk to me like this just because you have your big brother and second brother. While Ning Yu was still thinking, old Monster Tang's sinister words rang in his ears. Long San did not back down at all, and said coldly, "Old Monster Tang, who do you think you are? You are only ranked 50th on the Immortal King ranking list at your age, and even I am ranked 70. Aren't you ashamed?" "Why should I be ashamed? I am ranked 50th. Old Monster Tang berated. "Haha, even though you are ranked 50th, it is actually just the Immortal King ranking list of the 8 southern regions." Long San said disdainfully, "If you are really that capable, then go and challenge the Immortal King ranking list of the Immortal Court realm. Let's see what your ranking is." Why would Long San quarrel with old Monster Tang? Who knows, the Dragon War Empire seems to be in the limelight this time. Isn't it? I heard that Mo Xiao killed Mo Qiong, and became a popular candidate to be the crown prince of the Dragon War Empire. The Emperor of the Dragon War Empire has ordered that peak Immortal Kings will not participate in the battle for the crown prince, but everyone knows that the 3 Dragon Brothers support Mo Xiao, and old Monster Tang supports Mo Qiong. Now that Mo Qiong has been killed, it would be strange if old Monster Tang is not angry. The discussions of the surrounding people entered Ning Yu's ears. Ning Yu's gaze moved, and swept across the surroundings again. After a while, Ning Yu withdrew his gaze. Here, Ning Yu did not see Yang Yuming and Mo Xiao. Previously, Ning Yu chose to separate from Yang Yuming and Mo Xiao in order to better blend into the soaring Cloud Mountain range. Now that he did not see Yang Yuming and Mo Xiao, it meant that they were not here yet. As for being killed, Ning Yu did not think that way at all. Because he had absolute control over Mo Xiao. If something happened to Mo Xiao, he would be the first to know. "You are courting death." After a short quarrel, old Monster Tang roared, and immediately rushed out, clenched his right hand into a fist, and punched at Long San. "Do you think I am afraid of you?" Long San secretly glanced at Ning Yu, and then also clenched his right hand into a fist, and suddenly punched. Without Ning Yu's support, Long San did not dare to fight with old Monster Tang. After all, his ranking on the Immortal King ranking list was 20 places lower than old Monster Tang, and the overall strength difference was huge. Chapter 2483. Seal of the 10 Immortals Boom. Long San and old Freak Tang's fists collided in an instant. The 2 fists collided. Both Long San and old Freak Tang retreated dozens of feet quickly. Old Freak Tang was in a better state. After all, he was ranked around 70th on the 8 southern regions Celestial King list. Long San, on the other hand, was in a much more miserable state. His strength was much weaker than old Freak Tang's. His fist was instantly smashed into a bloody mess. Close. However, Long San was a peak Celestial King expert. The shattering of his fist did not affect him much. In just 1 second, his broken fist was restored to its original state. "Humph. You can't even withstand a single blow." Old Freak Tang snorted, curled his lips, and said proudly, "I can suppress a piece of trash like you with 1 hand. If it weren't for the fact that we both serve the Dragon War Empire, I could have killed you with that blow just now." "You." Long San's face was livid. He was a peerless expert ranked around 70th on the Celestial King list. Now that he was mocked by old Freak Tang in front of so many people, he felt a little embarrassed. What about you? A piece of trash is a piece of trash. Old Freak Tang shrugged his shoulders and said, if you're not convinced, you can come and fight with me at any time. Master, I hope you can avenge me. Long San took a deep breath and secretly sent a voice transmission to Ning Yu. Long San had been thinking that Ning Yu would help him when he sparred with Old Freak Tang. Killing with a borrowed knife. Ning Yu was very powerful. Especially after he reached the late-stage Celestial King, his strength had soared rapidly. In this case, with Ning Yu's help, he might be able to kill Old Freak Tang easily. You asked for trouble, so solve it yourself. Ning Yu's expression was calm, without any joy or anger. In fact, from the moment Long San made his move, Ning Yu knew what Long San was thinking. Long San should feel lucky. If there were not many experts here, Ning Yu would probably let him know what cruelty was. He had always been the one scheming against others. Now, someone else was scheming against him, and it was someone under his control. How could Ning Yu be happy? This is bad. Long San wasn't stupid. Seeing Ning Yu's expressionless face, he instantly realized that something was wrong. His original intention was to kill with a borrowed knife, but now it seemed that he had gone too far. Master, I didn't mean it, please forgive me. Long San hurriedly explained. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the void split open and two figures flew out from the void. Big brother, second brother? Seeing the sudden appearance of the two martial artists, Long San was overjoyed. Long Da was ranked 55th on the Celestial King ranking board, while Long was ranked 65th. He might not be able to compete with Tang Wulin. However, if the three of them joined forces and used their true dragon bodies, they might be able to defeat Tang Wulin. Third brother, what happened? Long Da and Long Er's bodies were relatively large. They were 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide. As soon as they landed, they discovered some clues. Long San's aura was dispirited, as if he had just experienced a great battle. It's all Tang Wulin's fault. Long San pointed at Tang Wulin and said fiercely, he insisted on sparring with me. I wasn't willing, so he forcefully attacked me. The martial artists of the other forces were speechless when they heard Long San distorting the truth. It was clearly a voluntary sparring, but when it came to Long San, it was Tang Wulin who forced him. However, now that the 3 Long brothers were present, no one wanted to expose it, lest they offended the 3 Long brothers. How dare you? Long Da's face turned cold, and he said coldly, Tang Wulin, I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel down and kowtow to my third brother to admit your mistake. Otherwise, I'll make you die a horrible death. You want me to kneel? Tang Wulin had a fiery temper. He said fiercely, the 3 of you can't do that. Is that so? Long Er's lips curled up, and he said calmly, I forgot to tell you, the reason why Big Brother and I came late is that we went to challenge the top 50 on the Celestial King ranking board, Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy. Swoosh. As soon as Long Er said that, the crowd was in an uproar. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon was ranked 49th on the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking board. Sword Extermination was ranked 48th on the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking board. Long Da and Long Er had gone to challenge them, and they came back unscathed. Didn't that mean they succeeded? So what? Tang Wulin was a little afraid, but he did not care on the surface. He said, I can defeat those 2 pieces of trash easily, but I don't have the time. Are you sure you can defeat the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy easily? Long Er said with a faint smile. Of course. At this time, Tang Wulin naturally would not admit defeat. Good, I'd like to see how you can defeat them. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Er clapped his hands. Clap. In an instant, the void cracked, and 2 more martial artists appeared in front of the crowd. One carried a long sword on his back, and the other held a giant saber in his hand. Obviously, they were the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy. Why are they here? Could it be that Long Da and Long Er paid a lot of money to invite them here? Of course. Long Da and Long Er fought with them and defeated them in the end. So, they asked them to do 3 things for them. TSK tilde instantly, the crowd booed. How could peerless powerhouses like the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy agree to do things for others? Unless someone suppressed them with absolute strength. Kill. Go to hell. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy did not stay idle. As soon as they appeared, they attacked Tang Wulin from the left and right. Damn it. The sudden change made Tang Wulin turn pale. He hurried to defend himself. Bang, bang, bang. However, Tang Wulin had just fought with Long San, and the energy waves in his body had not recovered to their peak state. Naturally, he was at an absolute disadvantage when fighting against the peerless powerhouses ranked 48th and 49th on the Celestial King list. Even after a few moves, Tang Wulin was sent flying, spitting up blood. After defeating Tang Wulin, the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy took back their magic treasures and stood behind Long Da and Long Interesting. Ning Yu had been paying attention to their fight. When the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy stopped attacking, Ning Yu found some clues. There was a special seal inside the bodies of the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and Sword Extermination Supremacy. The seal of the 10 Immortals. The reason why Long Da and Long could order the Ghost Blade Mad Demon and the others to attack was that they had the seal of the 10 Immortals in their bodies. If Ning Yu's guess was right, Long Da and Long must have the token of the 10 Immortals, because only the token of the 10 Immortals could perfectly control people who had been sealed by the seal of the 10 Immortals. Ning Yu transmitted a few words to Long San, asking him to find a way to get the token of the 10 Immortals. Chapter 2484. Whoosh. Long Da and Long did not suspect Long San's ill intentions. With a flick of their wrists, 2 golden tokens appeared in their hands. The 10 Immortals tokens. Without a doubt, the golden tokens that Long Da and Long took out were the 10 Immortals tokens. With the 10 Immortals tokens, Long Da and Long could command Ghost Blade Demon and Sword Destroyer Supremacy. Let me see, Long San said hurriedly, his eyes glowing. Haha, what's the hurry? Here you go. Long Da smiled and threw the 10 Immortals token to Long San. Pa. Long San's eyes were sharp, and he steadily caught the 10 Immortals token. Flipping it up and down for a while, Long San once again said, "Second brother, compared to Big Brother's token, isn't it a bit different? They're the same, just that one has the blood essence of Ghost Blade Demon and the other has the blood essence of Sword Destroyer Supremacy." Long did not suspect anything and threw the token to Long San. Pa. Long San stretched out his hand again and caught the token firmly. Tell there's no need. Return the token. Ning Yu wanted Long San to take the 10 Immortals token back, but on second thought, he felt that it was inappropriate. After all, with Long Da and Long's abilities, they could not have planted the 10 Immortals seal on Ghost Blade Demon and the others. It was obvious. Behind Long Da and Long was a supreme expert who knew about the 10 Immortals seal. Just now, when Ning Yu was communicating with Long San, he felt a weak aura land on him. Although the aura was extremely weak, Ning Yu's keen senses still detected it. It should be a rank 1 quasi-emperor. Ning Yu's expression was solemn. He had to change his strategy. With his current strength, he could only fight the top 50 experts on the 8 southern regions' Immortal King ranking. If he faced a true rank 1 quasi-emperor, he probably would not even know how he died. Therefore, it was not suitable to expose himself for now. He would wait until he entered the outer region of the quasi-emperor mystic realm. Old Freak Tang, you have 2 choices now. Long San returned the 10 Immortals token and turned to look at the heavily injured Old Freak Tang. 1. Submit to me. 2. Die. Poochie. Old Freak Tang was so furious that he spat out a mouthful of blood. A wise man submits to circumstances. Old Freak Tang rolled his eyes. He decided to pretend to be a snake and rely on Long San. Once they entered the outer region of the quasi-emperor mystic realm, or rather, the core region, they would think of a way to leave. I choose to submit, Old Freak Tang said, hiding the anger in his eyes. Very good. Now, relax your mind. Long San took a step forward, and a strand of soul force emerged from his body. Shio. The soul energy moved very quickly, arriving before Old Freak Tang in the blink of an eye. Then, it entered Old Freak Tang's body right before Old Freak Tang's eyes. A part of this soul force belonged to Long San, and the other part belonged to Ning Yu. It was obvious. Letting Long San control Old Freak Tang was Ning Yu's idea. Because in this way, Ning Yu could indirectly control Old Freak Tang and thus control this peerless expert whose strength was on par with his. Third brother, can you introduce these people? After Long San controlled Old Freak Tang, Long Da shifted his gaze to Ning Yu, Lin Lang, and the others. Okay. Long San nodded and said, these are my friends I met on the way. Let me keep you in suspense. When we enter the core region of the Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm, I will naturally tell Big Brother and Second Brother who they are. Oh! Long Da raised his eyebrows, staring at Ning Yu and the others with interest. In fact, it was no wonder that Long Da was interested. The Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm was divided into the outer region and the core region. Generally speaking, if one's cultivation had not reached the peak Immortal King Realm, it was basically impossible to enter the core region of the Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm. Now that Long San was so optimistic about Ning Yu, Lin Lang, and the others, Long Da felt a little strange. However, Long Da did not think too much about it. The three brothers had a very good relationship in the Longzhon Empire, and they had been through life and death together. He did not believe that Long San would betray him, nor would he think in that direction. Crack. At this moment, the energy barrier outside the first mountain emitted a subtle cracking sound. Crack, crack, crack. The cracking sound did not stop. If this trend continued, it would not be long before the energy barrier completely cracked. The conflict between Long San and Old Freak Tang came to an end at this moment. The experts of the other 9 forces all focused their attention on the energy barrier, and no one was in the mood to see how the conflict within the Longzhon Empire would develop. To them, the most important thing was to wait for the energy barrier to completely shatter, and then rush into the first mountain. Entering earlier meant that there was a high chance that they would be able to enter the core region earlier. Although the outer region was good, there were not many great Dao fruits and Quasi-Emperor blood essences inside. Perhaps the intermediate and early stage Immortal Kings would care a little, but the true peak Immortal Kings, the top 100 supreme martial artists on the 8 southern regions ranking of Immortal Kings, all set their sights on the core region. Break. After a while, no one knew who shouted, but in an instant, several figures swept over. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The first batch of people who passed through the energy barrier were the early stage Immortal Kings and the mid-stage Immortal Kings. Although those peak Immortal Kings had set their sights on the core region, they were not fools. They would first let the weak explore the way, and only when they were sure that there was no great danger would they enter. Otherwise, wouldn't they be very depressed if they encountered danger? They disappeared. Like these peak Immortal Kings, Ning Yu stared at the first batch of martial artists who passed through the energy barrier. He was surprised to find that these martial artists had just passed through the energy barrier, and then disappeared without a trace. They must have entered the illusion, Ninglu said in a low voice. The 18 outer mountain ranges of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm are all illusions. If you want to enter the second mountain range, you must see through the illusion. I see. Ningyu frowned. Crack. As if to confirm Ninglu's guess. Soon, some martial artists broke through the illusion and rushed toward the second mountain range. Seeing this, the surrounding peak Immortal Kings finally stopped. Whoosh. They rushed toward the first mountain range one after another. Third brother, let's go. Seeing everyone rushing toward the mountain range, Long Da said hurriedly, with the strength of us 3 brothers, we should be able to break into the core region soon. Big brother, don't be impatient. Long San shook his head, and then shifted his gaze to Ningyu. Huh. Long San's action made Long Da and Long a little puzzled. Why was Long San looking at Ningyu? Could it be that Ningyu had some special ability? Facing Long Da and Long Er's puzzled look, Ningyu was not afraid at all. He sorted out his thoughts, and said Ninglu's guess, the 18 outer mountain ranges of the Quasi-Emperor Secret Realm are all illusions. Only by seeing through the illusion can we enter the second mountain range. The first few illusions may be very weak, and we can break through very quickly. But the further we go, the more difficult it will be to break through the illusion. So I suggest that we be the last batch to enter, so that others won't take advantage of us. While speaking, Ningyu glanced to the other side. There. Chapter 2485. Chapter 2485. Chapter 2485. Lin Tai waiting to reap the benefits. Hearing Ningyu's words, Long Da frowned slightly, revealing a thoughtful expression. The three martial artists sent by the Shungming Empire were indeed a little strange. The strongest one was only a late-stage immortal king. He probably couldn't even reach the core area of the quasi-emperor secret realm. One had to know. The old ancestor of the Shungming Empire had been seriously injured and urgently needed the emperor's spiritual liquid to heal. Without the emperor's spiritual liquid, the Shungming Empire would immediately collapse and be devoured by the other 9 forces. Thinking of this, Long Da's mind moved, and he slightly released his perception, and began to contact the hidden martial artists. There really is someone hiding in the void. Ningyu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he didn't attack Long Da and Long Otherwise, the peerless expert hidden in the void would definitely kill him. Judging from the current situation, enduring for the time being was the best solution. After communicating with the martial artists in the void for a while, Long Da took a deep breath and said, "Let's go in first. Someone will naturally stop those trash from the Shungming Empire." While speaking, Long Da moved and directly crossed the energy barrier, intending to enter the first mountain range to try the illusion. Wait. However, before Long Da entered the first mountain range, the late-stage immortal king from the Shungming Empire said coldly, "How disrespectful. A mere Longzhon Empire wants to ride on top of the Shungming Empire?" Hearing this, Long Da stopped and looked back at the late-stage immortal king. "Do you know who you're talking to?" "I think I do." The late-stage immortal king from the Shungming Empire didn't back down and scolded, "Others might be afraid of you 3 long brothers, but I, Lin Yu, am not." Humph. Long Da snorted and immediately ordered, "Ghost Blade Mad Demon, go kill him and turn him into a fish." Yes. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon took out his broadsword and suddenly leaped up, charging at Lin Yu. Kai Kai. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon's speed was very fast, creating a sizzling sound as he rubbed against the void. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Ghost Blade Mad Demon arrived in front of Lin Yu and slashed the broadsword in his hand at Lin Yu's neck. This slash. It was extremely powerful. If Lin Yu was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, his head would probably be broken on the spot. Bang! At the critical moment, Lin Yu was still standing in the same place, but the void beside him suddenly split open. A huge palm appeared and slapped the Ghost Blade Mad Demon's blade. Catcher! Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon's broadsword cracked on the spot. "My saber!" The Ghost Blade Mad Demon shouted. His blade was a treasure that he had refined for many years. As long as the saber existed, the man existed. If the saber died, the man would die. "I'll cripple you." The look in Ghost Blade Mad Demon's eyes became extremely fierce. He poured all the energy in his body into his fist and punched the giant palm that was coming out of the void. Catcher. The result was obvious. The Ghost Blade Mad Demon's strength was not too strong. He was only in the top 50 of the 8 Southern Regions Immortal King ranking. On the other hand, the giant palm that was fighting him could squeeze into the top 40 of the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking with just one palm. The palm first shattered the Devil Blade Mad Demon's fist, and then, under the Devil Blade Mad Demon's horrified gaze, it bombarded his head. Kaboom! In an instant, the Ghost Blade Mad Demon's head exploded. At this moment, the terrifying Ghost Blade Mad Demon died a horrible death. Hiss! Seeing the miserable state of the Ghost Blade Mad Demon, Long Da and Long could not help but gasp. Even Ningyu, Ninglu, and the others couldn't help but have solemn expressions. Whoosh! After killing the Ghost Blade Mad Demon with one move, the void suddenly split open, and the owner of the palm appeared in front of everyone. Lin Tai. Lin Lang clenched his fists and gritted his teeth when he saw the martial artist that suddenly appeared. You know him? Ning Yu's ears twitched and he couldn't help but ask. Yes, even if he turns into ashes, I'll still know him. Lin Lang took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He said, I have an irreconcilable grudge against him. I understand. Ning Yu patted Lin Lang's shoulder and comforted him. In fact, Lin Lang's current overall strength could barely squeeze into the top 100 of the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking after reaching the early stage of the Immortal King realm. However, with his strength, wanting to kill Lin Tai was no different from a fool's dream. Lin Tai was able to squeeze into the top 40 of the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking with just one palm. If Lin Lang wanted to kill him, he would probably have to cultivate for many years. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Tai's appearance made Long Da and Long feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. The next moment, Long Da, Long and Venerable Sword Exterminator suddenly dashed out and surrounded Lin Tai from 3 directions. On the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking, Lin Tai could be ranked in the top 30. Every single one of the top 30 experts was a freak. Kill. Lin Tai didn't waste time talking to Long Da and the others. He growled and his palm grew larger again, slapping toward Long Da and the others. Dragon conquering the world. Dragon soars to the 9 heavens. Exterminating sword slash. Long Da and the others didn't dare to be careless. Each of them displayed their trump cards. Among them, Long Da and Long used their monarch-ranked battle skills, while Venerable Sword Exterminator used his famous skill. Fut fut fut. However, the outcome was far from what they had expected. A single move. Lin Tai had only used a single move to send Long Da and Long flying. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and their auras were extremely weak. Your strength. Long Da wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. His face was filled with terror. Even if Lin Tai was ranked in the top 30 of the Immortal King ranking, it was impossible for him, Venerable Sword Exterminator, and the others to fail to withstand a single move. There was only one explanation for this. Lin Tai's strength had already entered the top 20 of the 8 Southern Regions Celestial King ranking. I'm very sorry, I've had some initial success in my cultivation recently. Not long ago, I defeated Old Man Ku Yun who's ranked in the top 20. Lin Tai shrugged and said calmly, as for how long we fought, it should be 3 seconds. Bang! Lin Tai's words were akin to being struck by lightning, causing Long Da's heart to sink to rock bottom. Defeating Old Man Ku Yun in 3 seconds. Didn't that mean that Lin Tai's overall strength had probably reached the top 10 of the Immortal King ranking? What do you want? Long Da forced himself to calm down and said in a deep voice, don't think that the Longzhon Empire is a pushover. To be honest, if you dare to kill us today, the Longzhon Empire will immediately wage war against the sagely Ming Empire. He, that's exactly what I wanted. Lin Tai smiled and said, even if your Longzhon Empire doesn't attack the sagely Ming Empire, I'll still take some measures to force you to attack. Clap clap clap. Following that, Lin Tai clapped his hands and said loudly, come out. Show Long Da what true strength is. Swish, swish, swish. Chapter 2486. Chapter 2486. Chapter 2486. A little confused. This is, seeing the 6 cultivators suddenly appear, Long Da's mouth gaped open as he stood rooted to the ground. He knew these 6 martial artists, or rather, he had seen all of them before. He was a peerless expert ranked 10th to 20th on the 8 Southern Regions Immortal King ranking. Aside from Lin Hai, who was from the Holy Radiant Empire, the rest were all outsiders from the 100 Forest Weave. They came from the other 7 territories of the 8 Southern Regions. Could it be that Lin Tai had invited all of these people to surround and kill the experts from the 9 great powers of the 100 Forest Weave? Long Da raised his head and glanced at the rift. The speculation in his heart grew stronger. This was because the Dragon War Empire's rank 1 quasi-emperor he had brought along was currently being surrounded by 4 other rank 1 quasi-emperors. In the surroundings, there were 5 first-tier quasi-emperors eyeing him covetously. Taking a deep breath, Long Da said solemnly, Lin Tai, we can talk things out. There is no need to fight to the death. Really? The corners of Lin Tai's lips curled up into an arc as he said, "I have a special trait, and that is that I'm especially soft-hearted. If you kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, perhaps my heart will soften and I will consider letting you go." Kowtow to you? Long Die's face was gloomy, no one knew what he was thinking. A warrior prefers death to humiliation, Venerable Sword Extermination said coldly. Poochie. Just as he finished speaking, a sharp-tongued cultivator beside Lin Tai suddenly made his move and chopped off his head. "Don't mind it, it's just a small episode." Lin Tai smiled and continued, "Therefore, Dragon
Long
University
Die
felt that
you
as
only
long
have
as
one
he entered
chance.
the illusion realm,
I hope you
he
can
would
think
safe.
about it carefully.
Chard. If you
Kill
miss
them
this
all.
opportunity,
Lin Tai
you won't
was
get
flustered
another one.
and exasperated.
Oh right, my
No
patience
need.
is limited.
However,
Just
I hope
as the
you can
other
answer
6
me
peerless
quickly.
powerhouses
All
were
right,
about to
I'll
attack,
kneel.
they were
Long
stopped
Die
by a
was a
soft
man
voice
who
in
knew
the
when
air.
to yield
Bang.
and when to stand
Immediately
tall.
after,
He gritted his
a
teeth,
corpse flew
bent
out
his
of the
legs,
void and
landed
landed heavily
heavily
on the ground.
Let's go.
Rank 1
Seeing Long
Quasi-Emperor's
Die's
actions,
this corpse
Ninggu's
was a rank
pupils
1
Quasi-Emperor
constricted.
when he was
He
alive.
immediately pulled
Clearly,
Lin Lang
this
and Ning
Quasi-Emperor
toward
was
the
the
first
first mountain
mountain
of the
range.
Dragon War Empire.
Rumble.
And
Just
Long
as
Die
Ning
and
Yu
Long
arrived
were
in front of
relying
the
on
first
him.
mountain
There's
range,
no harm
Long
in
Die
letting them
took out
in.
a talisman
We'll
from his
wait at the
bosom and
entrance
threw
of
it
the
out.
core area
The
first.
talisman
When
suddenly
they come out,
exploded.
will
A
catch them all
terrifying
in one fell
shockwave
swoop.
enveloped Lin Tai
Not long
and the
after
6
the
peerless
indifferent voice
experts beside
sounded,
him,
the 9
attempting
great
to trap all
Quasi-Emperor
of them inside.
powerhouses in the void
Second
tore
brother
open the void
third
and
brother.
entered. Let's go.
Humph.
Long
They're
Die
lucky.
grabbed the
Lin
opportunity
Tai
and
snorted
grabbed Long
coldly,
and
then
Long
tore
San's
open the
shoulders
void
and entered
At the
as
same
well.
time,
If
he
Ning
kicked old
Yu and the
Freak
others
Tang
were
and
still
Dark
here,
Sky
they
Immortal
would
King's
definitely
buttocks
be
with
very
his right
shocked.
leg.
There
He
was
rushed
no other
towards the
reason.
first mountain
The
range,
people of the Holy
hoping
Ming
to enter
Empire
the
did not
illusion
need
realm
to pass
as soon
through
as
the outer
possible.
area of the
This was
Quasi-Emperor
because the
secret
things
realm
that everyone
and could directly
faced
reach
after
the
entering
entrance
the
of the
illusion
core
were
area.
different.
Of course, even if they knew, there was nothing they could do. The Holy Ming Empire could only achieve this by gathering 9 great Quasi-Emperors and 7 peerless powerhouses in the top 20 of the Immortal King ranking. Even if Ning Yu and the others knew the method, they could not do it. At the same time, in the first mountain range, Ning Yu and Lin Lang had already entered the illusion realm. They were very lucky. Ning Yu, Lin Lang, and Ning Lu were all in the same illusion realm. The illusion realm they were in was somewhat special. The surroundings were as empty as the wilderness. Not to mention people, there was not even a feather. How do I break this illusion realm? Ning Lu used his hand to touch the surroundings and discovered that there was a barrier around him. A soul force barrier. There was a soul force barrier in all directions. Do I have to break through the soul force barrier? The soul force in Lin Lang's body surged, wanting to break through the barrier. Don't. Ning Yu hurriedly called out to Lin Lang. Being stopped by Ning Yu, Lin Lang was a little puzzled and asked, "Why did you stop me? Shouldn't I try? Let me do it." Ning Yu carefully separated a wisp of soul force and approached the soul force barrier. Kai Kai. However, when Ning Yu's soul force approached the soul force barrier, it was completely devoured by a terrifying devouring power. My soul force. Lin Lang could not help but curse. Fortunately, he did not touch the soul force barrier. Otherwise, his soul force would also be devoured. I can touch it with my hands, but not my soul force. Ning Yu tested it a few times and finally confirmed one thing. The soul force barrier could be touched and squeezed by any part of the body, including immortal energy. Only soul force could not. Moreover, as long as the soul force approached the barrier, it would be devoured. What do we do? Lin Lang asked. Soul force could not get close, but other things could not get close either. Because other than soul force, immortal energy and body could only squeeze the barrier and not weaken it. Although Ning Yu had used some soul force just now, that part of the barrier had weakened by a lot. This meant that as long as he continuously used his soul force, he would be able to cancel out the barrier and break it. Don't be anxious, let me think of a way. Ning Yu propped his chin with both of his hands and quickly thought of a solution. Using soul force to weaken the barrier was obviously an impractical method. Ning Yu was very clear that even if the 3 of them used up all their soul force, the barrier would definitely not be broken. Firstly, this was an illusion realm, everything that happened could be fake. Secondly, the soul force that was consumed just now, Ning Yu realized that it seemed to have some connection with him. The soul force barrier should have a weakest point. Ning Yu stated his judgment. As long as he found the weakest point and used his soul force to attack it, he would be able to break the barrier. Otherwise, everything would be futile. Next, Ning Yu and Lin Lang activated their soul force and began to search for the weak point of the barrier. Found it. Not long after, Lin Lang shouted, "The weak point is here." Ning Yu looked towards the direction of Lin Lang's finger. He saw that towards the west, there was indeed a weak point of soul force. The only thing that made him suspicious was that this weak point seemed to be a small whirlpool. "Get out of the way, let me try." Ning Yu gathered his soul force on his fist and punched towards the whirlpool. Shoo shoo shoo. Before Ning Yu's fist could even land on the whirlpool, countless soul force surged towards him from all directions. What happened? Chapter 2487. Enemies on a narrow road retreat quickly. Suddenly, Ning Yu's expression changed, immediately pulling Lin Lang and Ning Lu, retreating rapidly. Ka. Ning Yu and the rest had just left the place. The soul power barrier around them suddenly split open, and countless terrifying soul powers surged towards them. Block. At the critical moment, the energy within Ning Yu's body emitted out, forming a small energy barrier around him. Kai. Ning Lu and Lin Lang did not stay idle. They similarly injected energy into the energy barrier, helping to resist the soul forces surging in from all directions. However, even though Ning Yu and the rest were doing their best to maintain the energy barrier, the situation was still not optimistic. Following this trend, at most 3 minutes, the energy barrier would completely shatter. "We must think of a way." Ning Lu's expression was solemn, saying solemnly, "Let me go and try these soul forces, see if I can find a way to break it." Lin Lang revealed a determined look. What happened now made him feel a little guilty towards Ning Yu and Ning Lu. After all, if he did not insist on coming, Ning Yu might not have accompanied him to such a dangerous place. "Let me do it." Ning Yu took a deep breath, his body emitted a soul force, leaving the energy barrier, coming in contact with the outside soul force. Hiss. Just as the soul force came in contact, Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Following that, he saw that the soul force that Ning Yu released actually fused with the surrounding soul forces. That's right, it was a fusion. The soul force fusion made Ning Yu a little surprised. He originally thought that his soul force would be swallowed and slowly nibbled away. Who would have thought that there would be a fusion? One must know. Once it could be fused, it meant that he went from being passive to being active. As long as he could fuse all the surrounding soul forces into his own soul force, then these soul forces would become his own. To put it simply, when the situation turned for the better, not only could he break the illusion, but he could also strengthen his soul force. However, Ning Yu didn't let Ning Lu and Lin Lang try. After all, this was only a guess of his, and it had not been confirmed yet. If Ning Lu and Lin Lang met with danger, wouldn't he be very embarrassed? Swish swish swish. Ning Yu was not an indecisive person. If he said he would do it, he would do it. The soul power in his body flew out and left the energy barrier, trying to make contact with the soul power in the outside world. Boom. He seemed to have sensed Ning Yu's movements. The soul power of the entire region was crazily attacking Ning Yu. Stabilize the energy shield. Ning Yu shouted in a low voice. He immediately withdrew his energy and jumped into the soul force sea. At this moment, the soul force in the outside world seemed to have found a backbone as it surged and frantically drilled into Ning Yu's body. As for Ning Yu, he unleashed his devouring power to the extreme. He didn't care about the consequences and just wanted to devour these soul powers. He would first devour the soul powers and then slowly refine them in the future. Such a good thing. If he missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one. Will there be an accident? Within the energy shield, Lin Lang hesitated. It would be fine if Ning Yu succeeded, but if he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. There shouldn't be a problem. Ning Lu said in a low voice. Ning Lu knew Ning Yu better than anyone else. Among the few brothers, Dark Emperor and Red Devil, even he would do things that he wasn't confident in. But Ning Yu was different. Since Ning Yu wanted to do it, It meant that the success rate would not be lower than 50%. This success rate, in the current situation, was totally worth a try. Drip, drip. Time passed minute by minute. The facts proved Lin Lang's worries were completely unnecessary. At first, Ningyu might be in some danger. But as time passed, the speed at which Ningyu devoured and fused the soul powers became faster and faster, and it was fast to a terrifying extent. The soul powers in the entire area were completely devoured by Ningyu in just a short few minutes. After devouring the soul powers, Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief, and his brows revealed some excitement. Awesome. At this moment, Ningyu only had one thought in his heart, and that was awesome. After devouring so much soul powers, although his cultivation did not increase and his physique did not become stronger, his entire mental state had a qualitative improvement. This kind of improvement was an all-round improvement, and there was an indescribable feeling of satisfaction. This is, seeing Ningyu's change, Lin Lang's mouth opened slightly, his face full of surprise. Dao Domain Realm. There were a total of 3 minor realms above Peak Immortal King. Dao Domain Realm, Dao Advent Realm, Heaven Receiving Realm. The mental state that Ningyu displayed now had already vaguely reached the Dao Domain Realm. In other words, Ningyu had condensed the Great Dao, his physical body reached peak rank 1 Quasi-Emperor, and his soul powers reached the state of Dao Domain Realm. The strongest below Dao Domain. It was not an exaggeration to say. Unless he encountered a true Dao Domain Realm expert, otherwise, Ningyu was the strongest. And in the 8 southern regions, only the top 10 peerless experts on the Immortal King ranking had barely reached the Dao Domain Realm. Crack. Just as Lin Lang was in shock, the illusion of the first mountain range was completely broken. Swoosh. A cold light flashed. Ningyu, Lin Lang and the rest only felt their vision go black, and then they appeared in the illusion of the second mountain range. There's someone. Having just entered the illusion, before Ningyu and the rest had time to observe the surroundings, they discovered that right in front of them, there were 3 martial artists looking at them. Very unlucky. These 3 martial artists were no strangers. The 3 Dragon Brothers. As for the Dragon War Empire's old Freak Tang and the Dark Tower Immortal King, they had long disappeared. Clearly, they had encountered misfortune in the illusion of the first mountain range. It's you guys. Seeing Ningyu, Long San's heart trembled. What he feared had really come true. He originally thought that Ningyu would die in the illusion of the first mountain range. Who would have thought that he would actually encounter him here? You're the one who controlled third brother? Long Da took a step forward, staring at Ningyu, and said coldly, I'll give you a chance to live now, release your control over third brother, or this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. In the first illusion, Long San had revealed the truth that he was controlled. Long Da and Long were naturally furious. Now that they saw Ningyu, they directly exploded and began to threaten Ningyu. Hehe, are you sure you want to speak to me in such a tone? Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a smile, since you already know that Long San is under my control, I'll make it clear to you, if you two are willing to let go of your thoughts and let me control you, I'll spare your worthless lives. Ningyu had always been nice to people who spoke in a friendly tone. However, when it came to arrogant people like Long Da, Ningyu's attitude had always been not too good. What? Long Da's eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect Ningyu to be so arrogant. This was intolerable. Die. He let out a low roar. Chapter 2488. Chapter 2488. Chapter 2488 Treasure Deposit. Poochie. However, before Long Da could even get close to Ningyu, Long San felt a sweetness in his throat, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Shua. The sudden change caused Long Da to stop, floating in the air. You're courting death. Long Da first looked at Long San, then looked coldly at Ningyu, and said coldly, if you know what's good for you, quickly. Poochie. Before Long Da's words had even finished, Long San, who was beside him, spat out another mouthful of blood. Ka. Seeing this, Long Da clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. The situation was very clear. If he dared to attack Ningyu, Ningyu would trigger the soul power in Long San's body, making Long San wish he was dead. You dare to do this? You don't dare to fight me fair and square, Long Da said fiercely. His anger reached the limit. Not only was he angry, Long Da was also very sullen. He thought that his strength was much stronger than Ningyu, but he was afraid that Ningyu would kill Long San. This kind of situation made him extremely sullen. Want to fight me? Ningyu looked at Long Da with interest, and said, with your current strength, you are not qualified. Not qualified? That will only be known after a fight, Long Da said sternly. All right, I'll give you a chance to fight me fairly. Ningyu nodded, and said, but before the fight, I need something. What? Long Da asked doubtfully, not knowing what medicine Ningyu was selling. Actually, it's not anything important, it's just that I need the gourd on your waist, Ningyu said indifferently. When he first saw Long Da, Ningyu noticed the gourd on his waist. After going through the illusion of the first mountain range, Ningyu roughly understood some things. The Quasi-Emperor Mystic Realm's 18 mountain ranges were not only 18 illusionary realms, but also 18 treasure vault. The treasure they encountered in the illusion of the first mountain range was a sea of soul power. Relying on the soul power, he raised the strength of his soul power to the Dao domain realm. And the treasure that Long Da and the others found in the illusion of the first mountain was obviously the gourd on his waist. Inside the gourd was none other than the fruit of Dao. 100 Dao fruits. Dream on. How could First Dragon hand over the gourd to Ningyu? He said coldly, change the condition. This, pu. Ningyu didn't feel like talking nonsense with Long Da. He once again activated Long San's soul power. The immense pain caused Long San to vomit several mouthfuls of blood. His face turned extremely pale. All right. Long Da gritted his teeth and said, I promise you that I will give you the Dao fruit, but I hope you will keep your word. Whoosh. During the conversation, Long Da took the gourd and threw it to Ningyu. Pa. Catching the gourd, Ningyu released his perception and probed it a little. Then, he revealed a satisfied expression. Who said that Long Da had left a soul mark on the gourd? But with the strength of his current soul power, breaking the mark was as simple as taking something out of his pocket. However, Ningyu did not break the mark immediately. Instead, he put the gourd into the red demon sword, looked at Long Da, and said, since you have satisfied my condition, then I will give you a chance to break the mark and fight. I will guarantee that I will not use Long San to threaten you during our fight. To Ningyu. He talked so much nonsense with Long San because he was afraid that Long San would destroy the great fruit of Dao in the gourd. After all, the 3 Long brothers added together were not as important as 100 Dao fruit. If it was just an ordinary Dao fruit, Ningyu might not care so much. After all, 100 Dao fruits might not necessarily produce 1 Dao. However, the Dao fruit in the gourd at Long Da's waist was extraordinary. Inside, Ningyu even sensed a terrifying aura. This meant that among the 100 Dao fruits in the gourd, there was a high possibility that a peerless Dao ranked in the top 1,000 would appear. 3,000 great Daos, tens of thousands of minor Daos. Only by condensing one of the 3,000 great Daos, the strength of one's physical body reached the Quasi-Emperor realm, and the strength of one's soul reached the Quasi-Emperor realm, could one officially break through to rank 1 Quasi-Emperor. The strength of a Quasi-Emperor was not only related to rank 1 or rank 2 cultivation, but also the strength of the great Dao condense. Condensing a great Dao ranked at the bottom and condensing a great Dao ranked at the top, even if their cultivation was the same, they would still be at an absolute disadvantage. Swoosh. Just as Ningyu was thinking, Long Da rose from the ground and charged at him again. Ningyu collected his thoughts, and his soul power suddenly surged out, suppressing Long Da boom. As the soul power surged, Long Da's mind trembled, and he was momentarily absent-minded. Bang! It was this gap. Ningyu's right hand clenched into a fist, and it landed on Long Da's chest with no way to avoid. The huge force directly sent Long Da flying out, and he came into close contact with the ground. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Many of Long Da's ribs broke on the spot. Fart! Dark red blood spurted out. Long Die's face was cold to the extreme. Never had he imagined that he would actually be unable to resist even a single move from Ningyu. He was a peerless expert in the top 50 of the 8 Southern Regions Immortal King ranking. Even if he was facing a martial artist ranked at around 30 seconds, he could still last a few moves. Could it be? Ningyu's strength was already comparable to Shungming Empire's Lin Tai. The more he thought about it, the more likely it was. After all, not long ago, the 3 brothers fought with Lin Tai, and they were defeated in one move. Ningyu defeated him in one move, and it seemed like he did not use his full strength. "I'm sorry." Ningyu moved and came in front of Long Die, and said indifferently, "You have 2 choices now. First, like Long San, open your mind and let me control you. Second, die. Even if I die, I will definitely not let you control me," Long Die said fiercely, not backing down at all. Pu. Ningyu could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Long Die here. He took out the red demon sword and stabbed it into Long Die's heart. Long Die lowered his head to look at the blood-red flying sword at his heart, and his face was filled with shock. He was just saying some harsh words, but who would have thought that Ningyu would kill him directly? Until he died. Long Die felt that he died unjustly. After killing Long Die, Ningyu threw him into the red demon sword for the Dark Emperor to devour. The Dark Emperor had just advanced to the early stage Immortal King, and he needed a large amount of energy to devour. If he prepared a peak Immortal King Long Die for the Dark Emperor might be able to break through to the mid-stage Immortal King very quickly. After doing all this, Ningyu looked at Long Plop. Long was very self-aware. Even Long Die was killed in a domineering manner. If he dared to go against Ningyu again, his outcome would definitely be miserable. Long knelt down to Ningyu on the spot and said anxiously, "I choose to open my mind and submit to you." "Amen, that's more like it." Long reaction made Ningyu very satisfied. He separated a bit of soul force and entered Long body, hiding it in his heart. Why is the second illusion? After controlling Long Ningyu finally had time to observe his surroundings. Raw. However. Chapter 2489. Chapter 2489. Chapter 2489 Blazing Dragon Inner Elixir Blazing Dragon. The sudden earth-shattering roar caused Long and Long San's expressions to change drastically. In fact, before Ningyu entered the second illusion, Long and the others were already in the illusion. Moreover, they even encountered the blazing dragon. However, the strongest of the blazing dragon they encountered before was only at the late Immortal King stage. With the strength of the 3 brothers, they could easily deal with a blazing dragon at the late Immortal King stage. However, the blazing dragon that appeared in front of them, no, it should be called a group of blazing dragons, were all very powerful. Looking around, the weakest one was at the peak of the Immortal King stage. So many blazing dragons at the peak of the Immortal King stage appeared together, the scene was extremely shocking. Is this the treasure of the second illusion? Ningyu looked at the group of blazing dragons in the distance and frowned slightly, feeling a little excited. The blazing dragon was a special kind of dragon. Their inner elixir was of great help to refining the body. In other words, it was the blazing dragon inner elixir, which could speed up the refining of the body and strengthen the body of the martial artist. With so many blazing dragons, if he could get his hands on all of their inner elixirs, then Ningyu believed that Ninglu, the Dark Emperor, and Linlang would all be able to raise their bodies to the level of a first-tier quasi-emperor. Go. Ningyu didn't think too much about it. He rose from the ground, holding the red demon sword, and charged into the group of blazing dragons. Roar. 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 Many blazing dragons raised their heads and roared, roaring as they fought with Ningyu. Unfortunately, Ningyu was very powerful, and these blazing dragons were clearly courting death by fighting him. The first batch of blazing dragons that fought with Ningyu only lasted for 3 seconds before they were all defeated. Ningyu held the red demon sword in his hand, tiptoed, and picked out all the inner elixirs of these blazing dragons. The blazing dragon inner elixir could strengthen the body, so Ningyu naturally would not waste it. Human, you are very strong. When Ningyu was done, The huge red raging flame dragon in the middle of the group of raging flame dragons finally said, "Why don't we work together? Cooperate?" Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the fiery red dragon with interest. He asked doubtfully, "How do we cooperate?" Originally, in Ningyu's opinion, these blazing fire dragons would definitely attack him indiscriminately until they were either killed or killed themselves. But now, it seemed that he was thinking too much. It seemed Lai Hualong did not have a good relationship with the master of the quasi-emperor mystic realm. In other words, most of these blazing fire dragons were demonic beasts that had been captured by the master of the quasi-emperor mystic realm. "You're smart. You should know what I mean." The red raging flame dragon smiled and immediately transmitted a message to Ningyu. 100,000 years ago, the evil dragon slayer Venerable captured us and brought us to the cloud-soaring mountain range and sealed us in the middle of the second mountain range. I won't tell you everything that has happened in the past 100,000 years. In short, you have two choices now. 1. Cooperate with me and help me leave the quasi-emperor mystic realm. 2. Be killed by me and I will find someone else to cooperate with. Ningyu did not reply to the red raging flame dragon immediately. To be honest, he did not really believe what the red raging flame dragon said. After all, this was an illusion. Everything that happened in the illusory realm could be fake and illusory. It was understandable that Ningyu did not believe the red raging flame dragon. "You don't seem to trust me." The red raging flame dragon saw the change in Ningyu's expression and smiled. Then, it spat out several fireballs. Kai kai kai. These fireballs did not attack Ningyu and Lin Lang. Instead, they turned around and attacked the many blazing fire dragons at the side. In just a few minutes, apart from the red raging flame dragon, there was not a single living blazing fire dragon. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The red raging flame dragon quickly dug out the inner core of the death raging flame dragon and threw it all to Ningyu. Pa! Ningyu waved his wrist, causing the inner core of the raging flame dragon to float in front of him. No problem. Using his perception, Ningyu checked for a bit before storing the inner core of the raging flame dragon into the red demon sword. The illusion might be fake, but Ningyu knew that these inner cores of the raging flame dragon were all real. Since the inner cores of the raging flame dragon were real, it was not impossible to cooperate with the red raging flame dragon. How about it? Do you want to consider cooperating with me? The red raging flame dragon smiled. Then, its figure flashed and transformed into a young man. Boom. Moreover, the red raging flame dragon released its aura. Hiss. Feeling the aura emitted by the red raging flame dragon, Ninglu and Lin Lang, including Ninglu, all gasp. Dao Domain Realm? Dao Advent Realm? At the very least, Ningyu could determine that the cultivation of the red raging flame dragon was not at the peak of the immortal king realm. At the very least, it was at the Dao Domain Realm. In fact, it was very likely to be at the Dao Advent Realm. The red raging flame dragon's thinking was very simple. Whether it was coercion or temptation, it had to succeed today. It had already stayed in this illusion for 100,000 years, and it did not want to stay any longer. If it followed Ningyu, it might have a chance to leave the cloud-soaring mountain range completely. Do I have a choice? Ningyu took a deep breath, spread his hands, and said, "But I have to remind you that I have offended many people. If you follow me, you might encounter misfortune." "It's fine," the red raging flame dragon said proudly. "After leaving the outer area of the quasi-emperor mystic realm, I will follow you to the core area to retrieve something. If you have any enemies, I will help you get rid of them. Before leaving, I want to refine the raging flame dragon's inner core." Ningyu took out the raging flame dragon's inner core from the red demon sword and threw it to Ninglu and Lin Lang for them to refine. As for Ningyu himself, he did not swallow the raging flame dragon's inner core. Firstly, his body was at the peak of the first-rank quasi-emperor. Even if he swallowed the inner core, it would be very difficult to improve. Secondly, Ninglu and Lin Lang had swallowed the inner core, so he needed to stay behind to protect them. Crack, crack. Ninglu and Lin Lang did not waste any time. They caught the raging flame dragon's inner core and threw it into their mouths. Then, They circulated their techniques and began refining it. Drip, drip. Time passed. The speed at which Ning Lu and Lin Lang refined the inner core had reached a terrifying level. A minute later, Ning Lu opened his eyes, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. Late-stage Immortal King. After swallowing the raging flame dragon's inner core, Ning Lu not only raised his body's strength to the mid-stage quasi-emperor realm, but even his cultivation had advanced to the late-stage Immortal King realm, similar to Ning Yu. Compared to him, Lin Lang was slightly weaker. After swallowing the raging flame dragon's inner core, Lin Lang's cultivation had soared to the mid-stage Immortal King realm, and his body's strength had reached the early-stage quasi-emperor realm. The people in the Red Demon Sword were also swallowing the raging flame dragon's inner core in an orderly manner. However, apart from the Dark Emperor, the others, such as the Water Moon Fairy, had not even refined a single raging flame dragon's inner core. After all, their cultivation had not reached the Immortal King realm, and some had not even reached the Heavenly Monarch realm. After swallowing the raging flame dragon's inner core, the Dark Emperor's cultivation had reached the mid-stage Immortal King realm. His body's strength was the same as Lin Lang's, reaching the early-stage quasi-emperor realm. His talent is not bad. Chapter 2490. The Second World Tree. Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat when he heard the dragon's words. He could vaguely sense that something was amiss. The red fiery dragon was from the fiery dragon tribe. Normally, it was rare for a dragon to devour its own kind. Whoosh! Ning Yu's soul power surged as he approached the red fiery dragon. Don't waste your energy. However, Ning Yu's soul power was discovered before it could reach the red fiery dragon. The red fiery dragon smiled at Ning Yu and said, "I'm not from the fiery dragon tribe. It's not surprising for me to devour their inner dance. You're not a real dragon, are you?" Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape as he exclaimed. "What do you think?" The red fiery dragon did not answer Ning Yu's question directly. "What the hell do I know?" Ning Yu rolled his eyes. He did not know if the red fiery dragon was a dragon. After all, it would be difficult for him to go against the red fiery dragon with his current strength. Otherwise, he would definitely force out the red fiery dragon's secret. "Let me introduce myself. You can call me Aoshing the red fiery dragon." "No, it should be Aoshing," said to Ning Yu. Actually, the reason why Aoshing chose Ning Yu was because he didn't want to stay here any longer. Secondly, he sensed a trace of the dragon clan's aura from Ning Yu. Back in the lower realm, Ning Yu had tempered his body with dragon blood. Therefore, there was a trace of dragon aura left on him. Aoshing Ning Yu did not continue asking. The name Aoshing was enough to explain many things. Rumor had it that the surname of the true dragon tribe was Ao. Of course, these were all rumors. No one had ever confirmed it. The dragon tribe had always been elusive. Those who had seen the true dragon tribe were all super experts and authorities of the Immortal Court. Let's go to the third illusion realm. Since he knew Aoshing's true identity, there was no need for him to stay. There were 18 mountain ranges in the outer perimeter of the quasi-emperor mystic realm. Currently, Ning Yu and the others had only reached the second mountain range. If they could pass through earlier, no one wanted to be late. There's no need to go to the third illusion realm. Aoshing shook his head and said, "Follow me, I'll take you to the last illusion. The things in that illusion are the good things." Catcher. During the conversation, Aoshing flicked his wrist, and the void in front of him suddenly split open. Immediately after, Aoshing moved his feet and entered the void first. Ning Yu and Ning Lu looked at each other and then entered the void. After all, with Aoshing's strength, he would have made a move long ago if he wanted to kill them, and there was utterly no need to wait until now. He believed that Aoshing might really be able to reach the final secret realm. Since Ning Yu and Ning Lu had entered the void, there was no reason for Long Tu and Long San to stay. They also entered the void. Whoosh! After entering the void, Ning Yu and the others felt their vision go black and they lost consciousness. Nobody knew how long had passed. It seemed to be one day, but it also seemed to be 10 days. When a ray of light appeared in front of them, Ning Yu, Lin Lang and the others all woke up. "We're here." Ao Xing pointed at the empty space in front of them and explained, "This is the 18th mountain range, which is also the 18th illusion realm that you speak of." Ningyu looked around. After a while, he said doubtfully, "Where's the treasure you spoke of?" "Don't be anxious." Ao Xing flicked his finger, and a cold ray of light shot out. Whoosh! Instantly, the ground split open, and a tree as thick as a waist appeared in front of everyone. "What the F***ck?" Seeing this tree, Ninglu cursed inwardly. World Tree. This tree's main body was the World Tree. In the entire Immortal Court, there were a total of 108 world trees with their own consciousness. The one in front of them was the one in the 100 forest domain of the 8 southern regions. Swoosh! As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn especially red. When two world trees with their own consciousness met for the first time, they would definitely fight to snatch each other's origin. However, unlike Ninglu, although this world tree had its own consciousness, it could not transform into the appearance of a human, and could only attack Ninglu in the shape of a tree. Rumble. The battle instantly broke out. Fortunately, Ninglu had advanced to the late-stage Immortal King realm, and the toughness of his body had reached the mid-stage of the First-Order Quasi-Emperor realm. Otherwise, he would definitely be defeated by this world tree. What's going on? Even Ao Xing was a little confused by the sudden change. He brought Ningyu and the others to the 18th illusion realm with the purpose of letting Ningyu and the others comprehend something under this tree. Who would have thought? After this tree saw Ninglu, it immediately started fighting. The change of Ao Xing's expression fell into Ningyu's eyes. He should not know that this is a world tree. Ningyu thought to himself. Ninglu had once told Ningyu that there were a total of 108 world trees with their own consciousness in the Immortal Court. This sapling fought Ninglu as soon as it saw him, which meant that it was one of the 108. What's going on? Ao Xing moved slightly closer to Ningyu, and said in confusion, "I have seen this tree a few times in the past tens of thousands of years, but it has never acted like this. I am not very clear about the details." Ningyu said in a low voice. Thinking of some things that had happened before, Ningyu began to worry about Ninglu. The Quasi-Emperor secret realm had existed for at least 100,000 years. And the world tree seemed to have been cut off less than 100,000 years ago. What was going on? Did Ninglu lie to him, or was Ninglu deceived as well? Shaking his head, Ningyu temporarily threw these thoughts out of his mind. At the current stage, the most important thing was to help Ninglu deal with the world tree, and nothing else. No need to help. The grudge between the world trees must be resolved by the world tree itself. However, just as Ningyu was about to make a move, he heard Ninglu's voice. Helpless. Ningyu could only stay where he was, and quietly watched the battle between Ninglu and the world tree. However, the worry in Ningyu's eyes grew stronger and stronger. Perhaps on the surface, Ninglu had the upper hand. However, Ningyu was very clear that if this continued, the one who would lose in the end would definitely be Ninglu. There was no other reason. The world tree was rooted in this illusory realm, and could endlessly devour the surrounding energy to replenish its consumption. And the energy that Ninglu consumed seemed to be unable to be replenished. In this situation, how could Ninglu win? Ao Xing, has this tree been here since 100,000 years ago? Ningyu's eyes turned, and he began to look for a breakthrough point from Ao Xing. Perhaps, what Ao Xing knew could help Ninglu. It's a certain age. Ao Xing thought for a moment and said, maybe 100,000 years, or maybe 1,000,000 years. Anyway, at my peak, cough cough, it existed for a very long time. At my peak. Ningyu did not show it on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. Ao Xing at the Dao domain realm was not at his peak. From this, Ao Xing at his peak was very likely to be a true quasi-emperor. Then how do I break this illusion? Ningyu collected his thoughts and asked again. In Ningyu's opinion, the moment the illusion was broken, this world tree would definitely be affected. Chapter 2491. Chapter 2491. Chapter 2491. The first 1,000 inch. There is only one way to break the illusion, and that is to get the recognition of that tree. To be honest, Ao Xing was very depressed. The reason why he chose to cooperate with Ningyu was that he believed that Ningyu could get the recognition of the tree and help him break the illusion. After all, for so many years, not only had he come here to comprehend, but he had also found many people to comprehend with him. But unfortunately, whether it was him or the people he found, without exception, they all failed to comprehend. He thought that Ningyu would succeed this time, but who would have thought that the martial artist next to Ningyu would fight with the tree? Get the recognition of that tree? Ningyu did not care about Ao Xing's depression. His expression became a little ugly. Ninglu had already fought with the Tree of World, how could he get its recognition? From this point of view, it was not realistic to break the illusion to help Ninglu. I still have to think of a way. Ningyu frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. Rumble. While Ningyu was still thinking about countermeasures, the battle between Ninglu and the Tree of World had already reached the climax. As expected. As time passed, Ninglu's decline began to show. The Tree of World fought more and more bravely, almost suppressing Ninglu. According to this situation, Ninglu would be defeated in at most 1 minute. Swallow. Just as Ningyu was worried about Ninglu, Ninglu's body suddenly became bigger, and his mouth was several times bigger. An extremely terrifying devouring power came out of Ninglu's mouth. The next moment, Ninglu directly swallowed the Tree of World in front of everyone. Gulp. The sudden change not only made Ningyu swallow a mouthful of saliva, but even Ao Xing was in a state of confusion. What was going on? The tree in the 18th mountain in the outer area of the Quasi-Emperor secret realm was swallowed by a late-stage immortal king martial artist. If someone had told Ao Xing that there was a late-stage immortal king martial artist who could swallow the tree in the 18th mountain, Ao Xing would probably have called that person a fool. But now, seeing it with his own eyes, Ao Xing had no choice but to believe it. What is this? Ao Xing opened his mouth slightly and said, "The illusion has been broken." Catcher. As if to prove Ao Xing's words. A crisp cracking sound rang out. Ka. Following that, a series of cracking sounds could be heard. Not long after, the illusions of the 18th mountain range were all broken. It really broke. Ao Xing took a deep breath and revealed some excitement in his eyes. 100,000 years, 100,000 years, he had been trapped in the outer region of the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm for 100,000 years. Now, he had finally regained his freedom. However, after the excitement, Ao Xing started to size Ninglu up. He really wanted to know how Ninglu managed to swallow that tree. You should know. The Dragon Slayer Evil Lord, who had trapped him in the outer region of the Quasi-Emperor secret realm, had said that the tree had been there for a long time, and even he himself might not be able to move it. But all of this was accomplished by a late-stage immortal king. How could Ao Xing not be shocked? However, despite being shocked, Ao Xing did not do anything out of line. His main body was still trapped in the core region of the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm. If he fell out with Ningyu, it was very likely that no one would help him find his main body. If he lost his main body, it would be extremely difficult for him to return to his peak again. Furthermore, from the outer region of the Quasi-Emperor mystic realm to the core region, there was still an extremely dangerous area. The Maple Leaf Forest. It was rumored that the Maple Leaf Forest was filled with demonic beasts. Dao Domain Realm and Dao Advent Realm demonic beasts had also appeared. Ao Xing had lost his main body, and his overall strength was at the peak Dao Domain Realm. If he went to the Maple Leaf Forest with his strength, it would be fine if he encountered Dao Domain Realm demonic beasts, but if he encountered Dao Advent Realm demonic beasts, even he might be killed. Swoosh. As soon as he left the 18th mountain range, Ninglu turned into a shadow and entered the Red Demon Sword. After swallowing a world tree with consciousness, Ninglu felt that his internal organs were burning. At this time, he urgently needed to go into seclusion and try to completely refine the world tree in his body. Once he refined the world tree, then his strength would have a qualitative leap. At that time, the peak immortal king would not be Ninglu's end. The Maple Leaf Forest is ahead. After passing through the Maple Leaf Forest, we'll reach the entrance of the core region. Aoshing glanced at the red demon sword in Ningyu's hand, then pointed to the forest ahead and said, "The maple leaf forest is filled with demonic beasts. It's extremely dangerous. I suggest that everyone hide your aura and move forward slowly." "Are there Dao domain realm demonic beasts in the maple leaf forest?" Ningyu asked with a frown. "Dao domain realm? Haha, there are even Dao advent realm demonic beast." Aoshing smiled and said, "But don't worry. If we encounter Dao domain realm demonic beasts, I'll step forward to stop them. But if we encounter Dao advent realm demonic beasts, we'll leave it to fate." "Wait." Ningyu stopped Aoshing and said, "Since the maple leaf forest is dangerous, then let's cultivate here for a while. It won't be too late to enter after our strength increases." "Cultivate here?" Aoshing almost cursed out loud. The entrance of the maple leaf forest was as dangerous as the inside of the maple leaf forest. Moreover, Aoshing did not think that Ningyu could cultivate anything. Aoshing saw it clearly. Ningyu's cultivation was at the late-stage Immortal King, not too far from the peak Immortal King. It was not easy for Ningyu to reach the late-stage Immortal King at his age. However, it was not that easy for Ningyu to break through to the peak Immortal King in a short time. Crack. Ningyu ignored Aoshing and took out the gourd he got from Long Da. He took out a Dao fruit and tossed it into his mouth. He activated his skill. Ningyu began to refine the Dao fruit with all his might. But unfortunately, there was no Dao in the first Dao fruit. Crack. Immediately after, Ningyu took out the second Dao fruit. Nothing. The third. Still nothing. Ningyu did not give up. He took out more Dao fruits and tossed them into his mouth. "You win." Aoshing rolled his eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. He walked straight to the other side and began to cultivate. After leaving the outer area of the quasi-emperor mystic realm, the suppression he felt instantly reduced. The reduced suppression meant that he could devour the energy in the void and strengthen himself. Drip. Drip. Time was ticking away. Aoshing was cultivating, Ningyu was refining the Dao fruit, and Long and Long San were discussing something at the side. As for Lin Lang, he was not cultivating. Instead, he was in charge of guarding. The maple leaf forest was very dangerous. If a demonic beast came out, he would be able to hold it off. After all, he had advanced to the mid-stage Immortal King, and his physical body was comparable to an early-stage first-stage quasi-emperor. His overall strength had improved greatly. Unless he encountered a Dao domain realm demonic beast, it should not be a problem for him to block 2 or 3 moves. Boom. 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. When the 11th minute arrived, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly emanated from Ningyu's body. The Great Dao ranked in the top 1000. Aoshing immediately stopped cultivating, and his eyes revealed a look of surprise. Chapter 2492. Discovered. Whoosh. Aoshing's shock did not affect Ningyu in the slightest. At this moment, Ningyu was using the internal peeping art to probe the situation in his body. In other words, he was probing the Great Dao condensed in his body. In addition to the Great Dao condensed previously, there were now 3 Great Dao in Ningyu's body. The reason why Ningyu had such an expression was because he discovered that the strongest Great Dao in his body had actually started to devour the other 2 Great Dao. Devouring Great Dao? Ningyu was even more shocked than Aoshing. This was because the devouring Great Dao was ranked in the top 10 of the 3000 Great Dao. Of course, only after the devouring Great Dao reached the limit could it enter the top 10 of the 3000 Great Dao. The weak devouring Great Dao could not even enter the 3000 Great Dao. The Great Dao that Ningyu condensed not only entered the 3000 Great Dao, but it was even ranked in the top 1000 of the 3000 Great Dao. Kai. Not long after, the Great Dao in Ningyu's body was completely devoured by the devouring Great Dao. Originally, Ningyu's devouring Great Dao could be ranked in the top 1000. Now that it had devoured 2 Great Dao, its ranking moved up by 2 places to rank 998th. I should be able to use it to fight enemies, right? With a thought, Ningyu made the devouring Great Dao leave his body and blast at Aoshing. Bang! Aoshing's expression changed, and he hurriedly punched out. The two collided. The devouring Great Tao retreated several feet and floated above Ningyu's head. On the other hand, Aoshing stood where he was without moving. Although Aoshing did not move, Aoshing's expression became extremely ugly. Others might not know, but Aoshing was very clear. In the process of his Great Tao battle with Ningyu earlier, some of the vitality in his body had been devoured. At this moment, Aoshing had already roughly determined some things. The Great Tao that Ningyu condensed was the mysterious and terrifying devouring Great Tao. Just by relying on the devouring Great Tao, his strength should be able to contend with early-stage Tao domain cultivators and even kill them easily. Aoshing thought to himself. The speed at which Ningyu's strength increased was indeed terrifying, so terrifying that even he was a little afraid. Based on this trend, Ningyu's strength would most likely reach a level where he could contend against him when they reached the entrance to the core region of the Quasi-Emperor secret realm. The more he thought about it, the more Aoshing felt that it was possible. Can we go now? However, Aoshing didn't say anything to Ningyu. He swung his slightly painful palm and said, "Let's go through the maple forest as soon as possible and then go to the core area to snatch the opportunity." Of course. Ningyu did not continue probing. After all, Aoshing was very powerful. If they really fought, he might not be able to win. Hence, Ningyu, Aoshing, Lin Lang, and even Long Tu and Long San followed closely behind, rushing towards the maple leaf forest. Shio 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 shio. Several whooshing sounds rang out in the dense maple forest. Then, a few figures appeared. Without a doubt. These were none other than Ningyu, Aoshing, and the others. The maple leaf forest was huge, so huge that it exceeded Ningyu's imagination. After entering the maple leaf forest, Ningyu and the others moved forward slowly at first. 5 minutes later, they moved forward at a medium speed, and another 5 minutes later, they started moving forward at full speed. Just like that, they still hadn't reached the center of the maple leaf forest after about half an hour. Stop. After moving forward at full speed for another 10 minutes, Ningyu and Aoshing's expressions changed at the same time, and they said in a deep voice, "Hide." Looking at each other, Ningyu and Aoshing could see some seriousness in each other's eyes. Not far in front of them, there were two people fighting. To be precise, the two parties fighting were not all humans. One was a human and the other was a demonic beast. The cultivation of humans was at the early stage Tao arrival realm, while the cultivation of demonic beasts was at the mid-stage Tao arrival realm. Do you know who they are? In the void, Ningyu looked at Lin Lang next to him and asked. As the crown prince of the Holy Ming Empire, if even he didn't know the identity of the man in front of him, then Aoshing probably wouldn't know either. That human is called Lin Xian, a peerless genius of the Holy Ming Empire. Lin Lang clenched his fists tightly and said fiercely, "Compared to him, Lin Tai is worlds apart. You have enmity with him?" Ningyu was puzzled. From Lin Lang's eyes, Ningyu saw a trace of anger. Previously, when Lin Lang looked at Lin Tai, he had this kind of expression. Irreconcilable enmity. Lin Lang took a deep breath and said, "The Holy Ming Empire ended up in such a state mainly because of Lin Xian. Don't speak, try your best to hide your aura." Ningyu still wanted to ask something when Aoshing said hurriedly, "A quasi-emperor is rushing over here." Swoosh. Hearing that, Ningyu's expression changed and he hurriedly concealed his aura completely. Although Lin Xian was powerful, his cultivation was only at the Tao domain realm. The cultivation of the demon beast that Lin Xian was fighting was slightly higher, and it was at the Tao Advent realm. The two of them were fighting, so they naturally didn't pay too much attention to observe over here. But the others were different. If it was really as Aoshing said and a quasi-emperor was rushing over, then they had to try their best to conceal their auras to avoid being noticed. Raw. The Tao Advent Realm demon beast seemed to have realized that a quasi-emperor expert was rushing over as well, and it raised its head and roared furiously before blasting towards Lin Xian with all its might. It wanted to finish off Lin Xian, a Tao domain realm expert, before the quasi-emperor expert arrived. Bang! However, the Tao Advent Realm demon beast had obviously underestimated the speed of a quasi-emperor expert. It hadn't even arrived before Lin Xian when the quasi-emperor expert appeared before it. Moreover, the quasi-emperor expert's fist brought along a violent gale of energy as it fiercely smashed towards its head. Roar! The Tao Advent Realm demon beast could only raise its head and roar furiously before retreating swiftly towards the back. But it was a pity. Even though the Tao Advent Realm demon beast's speed of retreat was extremely swift, it was still unable to escape the quasi-emperor expert's attack. Swish! The quasi-emperor expert's fist contained formidable might, and it just happened to smash onto the Tao Advent Realm demon beast's heart. With its heart penetrated, the Tao Advent Realm demon beast struggled for a moment before falling to the ground and dying on the spot. There's a limit to gaining experience. No one can save you if you delay things. The quasi-emperor expert glanced at Lin Xian and said indifferently, I'll give you half an hour to refine this Tao Advent Realm demon beast as soon as possible and strive to advance to the Tao Advent Realm. After that, go to the entrance of the core area and wait for us. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the quasi-emperor expert's figure flashed as he flashed towards the distance. However, the quasi-emperor expert had just taken a few steps back when he suddenly stopped. His gaze moved to look towards where Ningyu and Aoxing were. The quasi-emperor expert looked over. It caused the hearts of Ningyu, Aoxing, and the others to rise to their throats. At this moment, once they were noticed by a quasi-emperor expert, the consequences would be unimaginable. So, no matter if it was Ningyu or Aoxing, both of them were trying their best to conceal their auras. It was even to the extent that Ningyu and Aoxing even helped Lin Lang, Long and Long San conceal their auras to prevent them from being noticed by the quasi-emperor expert. Swish! 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 It seemed as if Ningyu and Aoxing's hard work wasn't effective. Chapter 2493. Battle. Oh no! Aoxing's expression changed when he saw the quasi-emperor expert walking towards him. Prepare for battle. Aoxing cursed inwardly. If he wasn't discovered by the quasi-emperor expert, he would definitely use a secret technique to escape without a second word. However, at such a close distance, even if he used a secret technique, he would definitely be caught by the quasi-emperor expert. Compared to Ningyu and the rest, he was the strongest. Even a fool would know to chase after him first before chasing after Ningyu and the rest. Therefore, Aoxing couldn't care less. He decided to drag Ningyu down with him first. With Ningyu's help, they might really be able to escape. Don't make a sound. Relatively speaking, Ningyu wasn't as afraid as Aoxing. Their aura concealment technique was extremely brilliant. Even a quasi-emperor expert might not be able to discover them. Moreover, the quasi-emperor expert walking over was only an early-stage first-stage quasi-emperor. It was difficult for a quasi-emperor expert of this level to discover them. Am I seeing things? As expected. The quasi-emperor expert stopped after a few steps. He furrowed his brows slightly and released his perception to probe his surroundings. A while later, the quasi-emperor expert retracted his perception and shook his head. There have been a lot of battles recently. Looks like I'll have to go into seclusion after obtaining the Great Emperor's spiritual liquid. Lin Xian, hurry up. The quasi-emperor expert didn't stay here for long. He said to Lin Xian once more, and then tore open the void and dived in. Whoosh! Seeing the quasi-emperor expert leave, Ningyu and Aoxing heaved a sigh of relief, as though they had taken a trip to the gates of hell. Given their strength, even a first-stage quasi-emperor would have no chance of winning if they encountered a quasi-emperor expert. After all, above the Tao Domain realm, there were still the Tao Advent realm and the Heaven-receiving realm. 10 minutes after the quasi-emperor expert left, Ningyu and Aoxing appeared from the void. Who is it? Ningyu and the others had just appeared when Lin Xian, who was in the distance, noticed something. He shouted in a low voice, "Why are you being so sneaky? Hurry up and come out." "As you wish." Ningyu leaped up and flashed before Lin Xian along with Aoxing, Lin Lang, and the others. At this moment, Lin Lang had already returned to his original appearance, not even concealing his aura. "So it's you, trash." Lin Xian roughly glanced at Ningyu and Aoxing, and then his gaze descended onto Lin Lang. Intermediate Immortal King. I didn't expect you to advance to the Intermediate Immortal King realm with your talent. It seems like you have obtained quite a lot of benefits from this trip. The corner of Lin Xian's lips curled up and he said darkly, I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll let you live. Don't be too arrogant. Lin Lang clenched his fists and said in a low voice, although your cultivation is higher than mine, you won't be able to escape today. When they were in the void earlier, Ningyu had already discussed with Lin Lang to help Lin Lang get rid of the traitor, Lin Xian. Among them, Ao Xing also decided to join in and kill Lin Xian together. After all, there was a Dao Advent Realm beast corpse next to Lin Xian. If Ao Xing wanted the inner core of the corpse, he naturally had to fight Lin Xian. Ha ha ha. Lin Xian seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then, he changed the topic and said coldly, do you think you can pose a threat to me with just a few Tom, Dick, and Harry? Come out, 8th uncle. Whoosh. As soon as Lin Xian finished speaking, the void trembled. Then, the Quasi-Emperor expert who had just left appeared again. Hiss. Seeing the Quasi-Emperor powerhouse return, Ningyu and Ao Xing sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. They had been tricked. No wonder Lin Xian was so fearless. It turned out that the Quasi-Emperor expert had been hiding in the surroundings, waiting for them to appear. Haha, I've long discovered you guys. I'm just playing a game with you. The Quasi-Emperor expert smiled and said, Peak Dao Domain Realm, Late Stage Immortal King Realm. After devouring you guys, my cultivation should be able to reach the peak of early stage first stage Quasi-Emperor and advance towards mid-stage first stage Quasi-Emperor. Roar. However, who would the heavens spare? Just as the Quasi-Emperor expert was about to attack, there was a loud roar from afar. Accompanied by this loud roar, a huge demonic beast gradually appeared in everyone's sight. Oh no, it's a Quasi-Emperor demonic beast. Seeing the sudden appearance of the demonic beast, the Quasi-Emperor expert's expression changed drastically. He was an early stage first stage Quasi-Emperor, and the demonic beast in front of him was also an early stage first stage Quasi-Emperor. Generally speaking, it was difficult for human martial artists to compete with demonic beasts of the same level. Run. There was only one thought in the Quasi-Emperor expert's mind, and that was to run as far as possible. It would be best if he could leave the maple leaf forest. Only by leaving the maple leaf forest could he be absolutely safe. Because none of the demonic beasts in the maple leaf forest could leave the maple leaf forest. They could only be arrogant within the maple leaf forest. Roar. 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 The Quasi-Emperor demonic beast swept a glance at the demonic beast corpses lying on the ground. Then, it raised its head and roared angrily, charging towards the Quasi-Emperor expert. Everything came and went quickly. From the appearance of the Quasi-Emperor demonic beast to the pursuit of the Quasi-Emperor expert, it merely happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. Swish. Swish. Seeing the Quasi-Emperor expert escape, Lin Xian's expression changed. He immediately tore the void and wanted to leave. Unfortunately, Ningyu and Ao Xing were faster than him and sealed the surrounding void first, causing Lin Xian to be unable to escape. Don't think that I'm afraid of you, Lin Xian said coldly. I'm at the peak Dao domain realm. If we really fight, it's still unknown who will win. Haha, I know that your cultivation is at the peak Dao domain realm. Ningyu smiled lightly and said, if you didn't fight a Dao Advent Realm demonic beast, we naturally wouldn't be able to stop you. But you've just experienced a great battle, and the energy in your body has been exhausted too much. You'll die without a doubt if you fight us. That might not be the case. A cold light shot out from Lin Xian's eyes, and he withdrew a medicinal pill from his bosom and tossed it into his mouth. Bang! The medicinal pill melted in his mouth and entered Lin Xian's throat before entering his abdomen. Very soon, Lin Xian's aura started to rise rapidly. In a short few seconds, Lin Xian's aura strengthened by more than double. Of course, it didn't mean that Lin Xian had broken through to the Dao Advent realm, but his aura had recovered to its peak state, recovered to the peak Dao domain realm. Under such circumstances, It was quite difficult for Ning Yu and Ao Xing to defeat Lin Xian again. I still stand by what I said. As long as all of you kneel down and kowtow to me to admit your wrongs, I can spare your lowly lives. After recovering to his peak, Lin Xian's confidence rose greatly, and he said fiercely, all of you caused me to swallow an emperor-grade medicinal pill. Only by becoming my slaves can you avoid death. Chapter 2494. Chapter 2494. Chapter 244. The Great Tao of Devouring shows its might, no problem. Ao Xing naturally knew what Ning Yu wanted to do. Similarly, a peak Tao domain realm powerhouse, due to Ao Xing not having his main body, his overall strength was slightly lower than Lin Xian's. If they really fought with their lives on the line, Ao Xing might not necessarily be able to gain an advantage. However, if it was just to attract Lin Xian's attention, Ao Xing didn't think it would be a problem. After all, Ao Xing knew better than anyone how terrifying the Devour Great Tao was. Normally, even if a martial artist died, the Great Tao in their body could not be devoured by others and turned into their own. The devouring Great Tao was different. Even if Lin Xian died in battle, the devouring Great Tao could devour the Great Tao in his body. The Grand Tao of Devour was an extremely terrifying Grand Tao. Since ancient times until now, every time the Grand Tao of Devour appeared, it would definitely cause a storm of blood. Ao Xing did not think too much about it. He immediately gathered the energy in his body into his fist and punched towards Lin Xian. Rumble. The aftermath of a battle between experts was extremely powerful. Lin Lang, Long and Long San hastily retreated, fearing that they would be affected. The few of them were comparatively weaker. Once they were affected by the aftershock of the battle between Tao domain realm experts, the consequences would be unimaginable. If they were lucky, they would suffer heavy injuries. If they were unlucky, they would die on the spot. Great Tao of Devouring. Looking at the battle between Ao Xing and Lin Xian, Ning Yu started to activate the Great Tao of Devouring within his body. Meanwhile, Ning Yu even stealthily guided the terrifying energy in his body to his fist. When he was dealing with General Lan Pan, a subordinate of Blood Sky Battle Emperor, Ning Yu had obtained some energy from him. When that energy was fully detonated, its power was comparable to a quasi-emperor's attack. Ning Yu's thinking was very simple. If the Great Tao of Devouring didn't work on Lin Xian, he would immediately activate the energy and kill Lin Xian. Originally, this energy was Ning Yu's trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not intend to use it. However, the current situation did not allow him to think too much. It was comparable to the full-powered strike of a quasi-emperor. It would not be a loss if it could kill Lin Xian. After all, it was unrealistic to use this energy to deal with a quasi-emperor expert. Quasi-emperors would not stand still and let you attack them. Even if he stood still and let you attack him, as a quasi-emperor expert, how could you kill him with a full-powered attack? Kill. In mid-air. Ao Xing and Lin Xian's battle had reached its climax. At first, Lin Xian was at a slight disadvantage. But as time passed, Lin Xian fought more and more ferociously. In the end, he actually suppressed Ao Xing tightly, causing Ao Xing to feel a little powerless. Ha ha ha. Lin Xian raised his head and roared with laughter. Today, I'll let all of you know the consequences of offending me. Flying fist. Clenching his right hand into a fist, Lin Xian directly used a sovereign tier battle skill. The Skysaw Fist was an Emperor rank battle skill, and when executed to its limits, its might was comparable to a peak early stage Emperor rank battle skill. Lin Xian had once used the Flying Fist to kill a Tao Advent Realm expert in the Sage Ming Empire. At that time, Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the late stage Tao Domain Realm, not the peak Tao Domain Realm. Now that Lin Xian had advanced to the peak Tao Domain Realm, the power of his Flying Heaven Fist had more than doubled. Damn it! Ao Xing could not help but curse when he saw Lin Xian use an Emperor tier battle skill. Because he didn't have a real body, Ao Xing couldn't use many of the Dragon Clan's unique combat skills. He could only use Soul Force to restrain Lin Xian, forcing Lin Xian to be unable to concentrate on using martial Tao attacks to defeat him. Fortunately, the strength of Aoshing's soul force had reached the peak Dao domain realm, whereas the strength of Lin Xian's soul force was only at the peak late-stage Dao domain realm, only a step away from the peak Dao domain realm. Otherwise, Lin Xian could erupt with even more formidable strength. Ningyu, get ready. After fighting Lin Xian for a while more, Aoshing's expression changed, and he said in a low voice, "I'll draw most of Lin Xian's attention. Seize the opportunity to insert the Devour Great Dao into his body." Now that it had come to this, Aoshing knew that he had no other choice. At this point, he could only listen to Ningyu's arrangements and help Ningyu restrain Lin Xian. Otherwise, both he and Ningyu would die today. Dragon roar to the 9 heavens. Aoshing raised his head and roared, then transformed into his enormous dragon form and roared as he charged at Lin Xian. "I guessed long ago that your true body is a true dragon. It really is so." Lin Xian was not too shocked. He waved his hands repeatedly and executed a fist technique that he learned a long time ago, the dragon trapping fist. The so-called dragon trapping fist had no effect on other human martial artists. It was only effective against the dragon race. Chance. Seeing Lin Xian execute the dragon trapping fist, Ningyu's face lit up, and he immediately displayed the Devour Great Dao and quietly approached Lin Xian. At this time, Lin Xian's attention was mostly on Aoshing. How could he pay attention to Ningyu? To Lin Xian, if he could capture Aoshing, then he could use a secret technique to refine Aoshing, refining a true dragon and turning it into his second primordial spirit, then his strength would increase several times. Heaven is really on my side. Lin Xian laughed wildly as he suppressed Aoshing. This trip to the quasi-emperor mystic realm was indeed not in vain. When I find the great emperor spirit liquid, I can also go and strive for the quasi-emperor realm. Is that so? Lin Xian had just spoken. An indifferent voice rang in his ears. Of course, Lin Xian said proudly. But very soon, Lin Xian's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Because the martial artist who spoke was none other than Ningyu. At this time, Ningyu's voice sounded in his ear. Without a doubt, it was definitely not a good thing. However, it was clearly too late for Lin Xian to think of retreating now. Bang! Ningyu grabbed the Devour Great Dao and exerted force, forcing it into Lin Xian's body. Kai! 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 As soon as the Devour Great Dao entered Lin Xian's body, a terrifying devouring power erupted, frantically devouring Lin Xian's flesh and blood. Great Dao! At this critical moment, Lin Xian hurriedly mobilized the Great Dao in his body and began to fight against Ningyu's Devour Great Dao. Unbeknownst to him, the Devour Great Dao was somewhat lacking in terms of devouring flesh and blood, but in terms of devouring other Great Dao, its power was abnormally terrifying. Crack! 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 Lin Xian was indeed an exceptional genius of the Shengming Empire. His cultivation was at the peak of the Dao domain realm, and the number of Great Dao in his body had already reached 10. Condensing 10 Great Dao in the Dao domain realm, his strength would be abnormally powerful when he entered the quasi-emperor realm in the future. But unfortunately, Lin Xian was destined to not live to see that day. Under the frenzied devouring of the Devour Great Dao, just after the secret alarm clock, 5 of the 10 Great Dao in Lin Xian's body were completely devoured. After devouring 5 Great Dao, the Devour Great Dao's ranking advanced a little on the 3000 Great Dao list. Lin Xian let out a hysterical scream and hurriedly begged for mercy. "Spare me, I'm from the Shengming Empire. If you kill me, the Shengming Empire will not let you off. The Shengming Empire's crown prince is here. Are you sure the Shengming Empire will not let me off?" You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.